Chapter 828. For a cultivator, not to mention one basin of rice, even if there were 10 or 100 basins, he would still be able to eat it. Han Fei had no choice but to swallow the bowl of rice. He swore that if there were no special circumstances, he would never come to his senior brother's house to eat again. This was simply asking for his life. As for Wang Dashuai's future, Han Fei couldn't care less about this matter. He could only do as he saw fit. After Bai Lu finished a basin of rice, she looked at Han Fei with a smile. "Junior brother, is little Jiu okay? You don't know this, but this time I went to find a matchmaker, Granny Yin." The old lady looked at little Jiu as if she were looking at her granddaughter. "It was also because he recognized your strength and talent that he allowed you to go. Otherwise, it will be hard for you to pass." Han Fei glanced at Wang Dashuai in confusion, and the latter gave him a look as if to say, "I don't know either." Han Fei couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Sister-in-law, I already have a girlfriend, so I'm not suitable. Besides, I only pursue the great Tao. I don't have time." Bai Lu immediately patted the table and said, "Yes, I know Xiao-chan is good and beautiful, and you have a deep relationship. However, you have to look forward. There are some things that have already happened. Don't make things too difficult for yourself." Han Fei was speechless. "What do you know? Xia Xiao-chan is not dead. Besides, I really don't have time now." Old Han was locked on the 4th floor of the Scattered Stars prison, exuding the smell of secrets. In the demonic forest channel, there was a rattan waiting for him to get. The secret of the sea-quelling painting may be revealed soon. How can I have time for so many things? Han Fei nodded and suddenly said, "Sister-in-law, well, I have to build a house in the afternoon. Tomorrow, I'm going to hold a banquet at home and treat everyone to dinner. All of you will come tomorrow." "Well, I have to go now." Bai Lu smiled and said, "Okay, go ahead. However, if you want to fish, just fish. Don't dive into the pool. The one down there has a bad temper. You'd better ask Granny Yin's Da Huang to go fishing with you. You can take care of her." Hey. "Sister-in-law, wait a minute. I have to go." Qing Chen also got up quickly. "Wait for me. I'm bored, I'll go with you to build a house." Bai Lu shouted from behind, "Marshal Wang, you go too. Aren't you going to help your junior brother? Go. Hey. After a while, the three of them flew to an empty space 1,000 meters away from the edge of the pond. This place was backed by a high mountain, and the Empyrean waterfall was right in front of him. The water pouring down from the waterfall crashed into the cliffs, covering this place with clouds and mist. Wang Dashuai said, "Junior brother, why did you choose this place? Wasn't it too close to the Empyrean waterfall?" "I think your sister-in-law is right. Not far from Little Nine's house, there was an empty piece of land. You can still plant some land, and the mist isn't so thick." Qing Chen nodded quickly. "Yes, near the waterfall. The mist is a bit thick, and so is the sound." Han Fei thought to himself, "I would rather die than live next to Jiu Yinling's house." However, at this moment, his attention was attracted by the person below. He couldn't help but ask, "Who is that person below?" Wang Dashuai shook his head slightly and blinked at him, as if hinting at something. Han Fei glanced at Qing Chen. Was it because there were outsiders present that he couldn't say? Qing Chen chuckled and said, "You'll know soon. If you have enough good things, you'll soon know." Han Fei was puzzled. What did he mean? What did this have to do with how many good things I had? But Han Fei didn't ask further. He just chuckled and said carelessly, "It doesn't matter. I'm a spirit gatherer and an array master. I chose this place to set up the cloud mist array with the help of the mist here. Besides, this place is very suitable for setting up the 100-water mystic killing array. These arrays that are born with water can make the array grow endlessly." Qing Chen couldn't help tilting his head and glancing at Han Fei. "You and Little Nine are really a good match. In this Empyrean waterfall, only the two of you set up a bunch of arrays at home. Look at other people, they can watch the stars and bask in the sun at home. Won't your array block the view of nature? Han Fei sneered. You don't know anything about arrays, do you? As soon as the array is set up, clouds and water will surround it. If I want to bask in the sun and watch the starry sky, it's only a matter of a thought. Do you think I soak in the water every day? Clang! Wang Dashui threw the big green door to the ground and chuckled. Okay. Little junior brother, if you want to stay here, just stay here. Let's go pull some trees and build a house first. At night, Wang Dashui went back to accompany his wife. Han Fei and Qing Chen squatted in front of the flowing water villa that had just been built among the rocks. Qing Chen sighed. Han Fei, your house is very beautiful. Han Fei chuckled and thought to himself, well, you don't understand. This is called the flowing water villa. On the second floor, there was even an open-air swimming pool. Although it was called a swimming pool, it was actually a killing array. In the afternoon, Wang Dashui carried hundreds of large bluestones over and piled them up into a small cliff. Han Fei guided a stream of water over and passed by his door, which was quite exquisite. He just needed to pull up a few more trees and go to Yui's house to get some flowers and grass. This was definitely the most luxurious building here at the Empyrean waterfall. Han Fei sat down on a chair. Don't you want to go home? Qing Chen chuckled. I didn't build a house. I can live here. Han Fei interrupted him. That won't do. I'm only used to living alone. I still need to cultivate. Qing Chen didn't care and chuckled again. Well, I helped you in the afternoon. Don't you want to thank me? Just the one at noon, the hot pot at noon. Make another meal. I found that you are the best cook in the Empyrean waterfall. Han Fei immediately understood why this guy refused to leave. It turned out that this was the reason why he refused to leave. He wanted to eat and drink at my place. Han Fei said leisurely, actually, I don't cook very much. I just cook occasionally. Fine, I'll cook tonight. When you're done, go back quickly. I'm going to start cultivating. Okay, okay. When Qing Chen also left, Han Fei waved his hand, and the entire flowing water villa was surrounded by clouds and mist. The reason why he chose this place was that it had the most abundant spiritual energy. Because of the great waterfall, if he made a breakthrough here, although the abnormality of spiritual energy would still be discovered, the abnormality would be greatly reduced. In the future, whether it was his own cultivation or a breakthrough, as long as it required a lot of spiritual energy, he should be able to get away with it. As for the guy below, I didn't provoke him. He can't climb up to find me, right? There are so many people here. I've been out for 2 days, and I finally have time to cultivate. Han Fei poured out 87 level 2 soul crystals. This was Lu Renquang. He had collected a lot of soul crystals during this period. Since he stabilized his soul in the demonic forest channel, because he had used up all the soul crystals, he hadn't cultivated his spiritual power. It took a long time to visualize the god-scaring painting. At this time, Han Fei casually grabbed a level 2 soul crystal and quickly refined it. 1 piece. 2 pieces. Han Fei's eyes flickered. When there were only 27 soul crystals left, his spiritual power reached 2,999 points, and his perception range reached 29,999 meters. He reached another bottleneck. Whew! Han Fei heaved a sigh of relief. This time, the growth of his spiritual power was more than he expected. This meant that when he was in the 72-floor ancient demon realm, the ownerless souls he absorbed did increase the power of his soul by about 50%. He looked at his personal information. Owner Han Fei, level greater than 49, peak level hanging fisher, spiritual energy 5322658, 19908, spiritual power, 2,999/2,999, perception range greater than 29,999 meters is spiritual heritage level 7, low quality spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, level 45. Main art, divine manipulation technique, level 5 of void fishing, heaven level, divine quality. Han Fei looked calm. When he was on the 4th level of the Scattered Stars prison, his upper limit of spiritual energy increased rapidly and he was close to the bottleneck. He calculated with his fingers and had a hunch that he should be able to break through to the hidden fissure realm in half a month. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. I must make good use of this opportunity. It was a qualitative leap from a hanging fissure to a hidden fissure. At that time, his spiritual power might make another breakthrough. Alas, I don't have enough soul crystals. Han Fei glanced at the 27 level 2 soul crystals he had left. Immediately, Han Fei thought of something. Now that he had 6 stars, the number of level 2 soul crystals he could exchange should be enough. Forget it, I'll go through the back door. Anyway, Shueishenqi seems to know something. It shouldn't be a problem for me to exchange for them openly. Yes. I have to seize the opportunity to enter the Soul Sea. I can't blindly eat anymore. I have to try to figure out the secrets of the Soul Sea. And the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and the others. It's too expensive to cultivate them with spirit awakening fluid. If I can rob an undersea chimney or dig into the transverse mountain. This idea flashed through his mind. Han Fei was shocked by himself. Wang Dashui was forbidden to go to sea because he robbed an undersea chimney. No way. Even if he became a hidden fisher, he would only be a junior hidden fisher. And there were many strong masters in the transverse mountain. He couldn't ruin his chance to go to sea because of this small profit. Okay. After I become a hidden fisher, I'll go to the Sea of Pearls. No. The Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect is only level 33 now, which is too low. Well, when I get back, I'll go to Yi Qingfeng's place more often and get some poison. Then I'll go to Chao Qiu and get some poison god. Having made all the plans, Han Fei couldn't help but lie down on the chair again. With a slight wave of his hand, the clouds in the array dispersed, revealing the shining starry sky. Suddenly, Han Fei's eyes narrowed slightly. He sensed that someone glanced at him. The power of perception was very subtle. If it weren't for the surge of his spiritual power, he wouldn't even have felt it. Han Fei couldn't help but look sideways at the pool under the Empyrean waterfall. Who on earth is that? Second. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 829. Early the next morning, Han Fei went to visit the heavyweights in the inner circle. The nearest one was the home of the old poison, Yi Qingfeng. Han Fei stood at the door and knocked. Senior Yi, okay. Yi Qingfeng responded in a low voice, indicating that he got it. Han Fei smiled. Senior Yi, I'm holding a banquet in my house today. Would you do me the honor? I'm not bragging, but I'm quite good at cooking. Creak. The door opened, and Yi Qingfeng was holding a half-meter-long red centipede in his hand. He glanced at Han Fei lightly. I won't go to dinner. I only like to eat poison. Han Fei was speechless. What the hell? Someone likes to eat poison. Han Fei immediately said with a smile, well, in fact, I also like to eat poison. As long as I have enough materials, maybe I can prepare a poisonous meal for you. What do you think? Yi Qingfeng said leisurely, poisonous meal? Are you trying to trick me into eating poison? Han Fei was speechless. What are you talking about? Although I do have such an idea, please don't say it out loud. Before Han Fei explained, Yi Qingfeng sneered. Forget it. If you want to raise your heaven spirit detoxifying insect, you can come to my place for a cup of tea every day. Remember to come in the afternoon near dusk. At that time, the sky is dark and the toxins will evaporate. Han Fei immediately grinned. Thank you, Senior Yi. In that case, I'll take my leave. Han Fei walked happily to Granny Yin's house in a good mood. Yu Qingfeng's poison was very good. Yesterday, the Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect upgraded after drinking a cup of tea. Although the Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect itself might be upgraded soon, it would take time to raise it himself. If he drank poison at Yu Qingfeng's place every day, it wouldn't be a problem for the Heaven Spirit detoxifying insect to upgrade 2 or 3 levels in 10 days or half a month. While he was happy, he suddenly felt that something was wrong, as if something was looking at him. Following his perception, Han Fei froze and was dumbfounded. After a long pause, Han Fei rubbed his eyes and stared at the top of the wall of Granny Yin's house. That yellow, furry thing. Isn't that a fucking cat? Fuck. Han Fei hurriedly ran over until he was about 10 meters away from the yellow cat. One man and one cat confronted each other. To Han Fei's shock, data appeared in his eyes. Name, soul-devouring spiritual cat, Yin Shui's contractual spiritual beast. Introduction, an extremely rare land creature that possesses a trace of the bloodline of the ancient ferocious beast, the soul-devouring cat. It is as swift as the wind and incomparably fast. Its pair of sharp blades can take away the soul. Anyone who is swept by its sharp claws will be in a daze for 3 days. Level S61, Quality, Legendary Spiritual Energy greater than 42,256 points, Food, All Fish, Battle Skill, Soul Devouring Yao Art, Remarks, a cold and aloof creature. Strangers should not approach it. Han Fei sucked in a breath of cold air. God knows what he was thinking. He meowed at the cat. Puchi. Yu Qingfeng, who was a kilometer away, spat out a mouthful of tea and stared at Han Fei dumbfoundedly. Is this kid crazy? How dare he tease Big Huang? To Yu Qingfeng's surprise, the cat glanced at Han Fei contemptuously and said, "Your meow is wrong." Han Fei blinked. That's right. This cat is a legendary creature. It's nothing special that it can talk. Han Fei immediately chuckled. I've read about cats in ancient books. I'm really curious. Are you Big Huang? Let's go fishing together when you're free. Suddenly, Big Huang's eyes lit up. It meowed and jumped to the ground, staring at Han Fei. Where did you read that book? Where else have you seen my fellows? Is that book still there? Han Fei immediately thought of something. I don't think so. In a secret realm called the Snow God's Temple, there used to be a lot of land creatures, including cats. Big Yellow meowed and asked, "Where's the secret realm?" Han Fei said with a smile, "The secret realm has been destroyed. You have to ask Zheng Chaojie." After the secret realm collapsed, he explored it by force. Hearing that the secret realm was destroyed, Big Huang meowed in disappointment and walked to the pool with his head held high and his tail erect, while talking to himself, "I'm really a lonely cat." A few people were speechless. Can Han Fei just talk to anyone? You can even talk to Big Huang. Seeing that Big Huang was gone, Han Fei walked to the door of Granny Yin's courtyard and heard the old lady say, "Come in." Han Fei was about to speak, when Granny Yin said, "I'm not going to have dinner with you. I'm too old to join in the fun with you young people. Just ask Xiao Jiu to come. She's stubborn and doesn't care about material things. You have to talk to her." Han Fei was speechless. Talk to me? I have nothing to do with her. Granny Yin waved her hand and said, "Go ahead. Old Nangong likes crowds. You can ask him to come." As soon as Granny Yin said so, she heard Nangong Xian's voice. "I see, but I'm still in seclusion, so I won't go. Let's wait for next time." Seeing that no one went, Han Fei couldn't help feeling a little depressed. That's because you don't know my cooking skills at all. Don't regret it in the future. When Han Fei came to the periphery and passed by Yui's house, Yi poked her head out and smiled at Han Fei, which made Han Fei's heart skip a beat. He finally knew why senior brother was beaten by his sister-in-law. Yi had a charm technique, which was a bit similar to Xia Xiaochan's, but fortunately, he was used to it and didn't panic at all. Han Fei also responded with a smile, Miss Yui, would you like to come to my house for lunch? I've prepared a banquet. Yui nodded. Okay. Okay. When you come back later, bring some flowers and plants back from me. By the way, ask Yu Shire to come. That silly guy will be too embarrassed to go to my house. Han Fei nodded slightly. Okay. When passing by the big blue stone, Nameless glanced at Han Fei faintly. I'll go if you enter my 300-meter sword domain. Han Fei scratched his head. Do I have to fight for a meal? As they talked, Ning Jingyao, the knife cultivator who always liked to lie on the roof and look at the sky, said with a smile, yes, I'll go in and kill him. Seeing that many people were looking at him, Han Fei was a little helpless. Do these people like to join in the fun so much? Han Fei thought for a while and decided to go in and see how strong the people on this side of the Empyrean waterfall were. At least, Han Fei knew that if he walked into this 300-meter sword domain, his relationship with Nameless would be further improved. Han Fei grinned. Then I'm coming. Nameless nodded and suppressed his strength to that of a peak-level hanging fisher. With that, Han Fei stepped into Nameless' 300-meter sword domain without hesitation. Swish! 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 In an instant, the sky was full of sword shadows, and Han Fei felt that every part of his body was being stared at. At that moment, Han Fei felt at least 1,000 sword shadows. Han Fei stepped slightly, and the coiled turtle array and the spirit gathering array appeared at the same time. At the same time, instead of using a knife, he stretched out his hand and punched out a golden fist mark. The invincible fist mark rushed out 200 meters and was shattered by the sword shadows that circled around it. Sensing the boundless sword intent, Han Fei became slightly solemn. This man's sword was so strong that it was comparable to the third move of Sun Mu's immortal slaying array. With a thought, Han Fei didn't use the sacrificing punch but took out an ultra-quality spiritual long knife. Swish! The knife shone like an upside-down galaxy, and Ning Jingyao's eyes glowed as he watched on the roof. Good knife. Clang, clang, clang. With a draw technique, the sword shadows along the way were all shattered, and he was still moving forward after traveling 280 meters. When he was only 1 meter away from Nameless, with a swish, Nameless drew his sword and put it back. What a fast sword! Han Fei's draw technique was destroyed by the sword, and the sword chi swept at Han Fei at an incredible speed. Han Fei's eyes narrowed and he didn't hold back anymore, but he didn't use the Overlord's technique either. He stabbed the knife into the ground, and with a boom, a crimson fist mark blasted out. Facing the sacrificial punch, Wu Ming's eyes widened. He held the hilt of his sword with one hand, and the scabbard flashed with spiritual light. It flashed 6 times before Wu Ming pulled out his sword. All the sword shadows in the surroundings seemed to gather and fuse into his sword. Hum! Hum! The fist print and the sword chi were fighting, neither giving way to the other. Faintly, Wu Ming's eyes narrowed. His own sword chi was being pushed back by this punch. Although it was not much, he knew very well what it meant. Han Fei was also shocked. Now that the sacrificing punch's spiritual energy had almost doubled, it didn't directly blast Wu Ming away but was blocked by Wu Ming's sword. Crack! Crack! During the collision, the sacrificing punch and the sword chi dissipated at the same time. The whole sword domain returned to peace, and Nameless immediately changed his momentum and returned to the level of a hidden fissure. At this moment, he looked at Han Fei and nodded slightly. I'll go over at noon. Don't be surprised. You're in my sword domain, or I would have been defeated by that blow. Han Fei couldn't help but look at the 300-meter sword domain. Could this sword domain allow Nameless sword to resist his sacrificing punch? Han Fei secretly took a breath. The Empyrean waterfall deserved its reputation. Any random person here was so strong. But Han Fei immediately put on a smile again and said, "Ha, then I'll be waiting for you." 3rd. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 830. When Han Fei walked into the 300-sword domain, Wu Ming suppressed his strength to that of a peak-level hanging fisher. But even so, many people looked at Han Fei in a different light. Although the people at the Empyrean waterfall were all weirdos, strength mattered most in this world. The residents at the Empyrean waterfall were all thrown here because they had committed crimes. However, in terms of strength, countless people on the Scattered Stars Island would mention the Empyrean waterfall from time to time. Ordinary people couldn't even get in unless they were looking for someone. Ning Jingyao glanced at Han Fei and said, "Han Fei, let's have a fight when we have time. Your attack just now was very powerful." Han Fei chuckled and said, "Actually, I only know one attack." Ning Jingyao waved his hand slightly. "One attack is enough. How about it? How about we fight on my roof?" Han Fei shook his head. "No." At this time, Han Fei was very weak. He launched the sacrificing punch, and all his energy poured out. "Again? Am I not going to live anymore?" As he spoke, Han Fei took out an energy spiritual fruit and took a bite. The rich fragrance wafted. After the fruit was swallowed by Han Fei, Ning Jingyao said sulkily, "Fine, just eat it. You don't have to call them one by one." Ning Jingyao roared, "If you want to go, go. If you don't want to go, don't go. Don't let them come to your house one by one. They all know voice transmission. It's not worth it." Someone said, someone laughed and said, "All right, go ahead. I haven't eaten for a long time." Someone laughed. "Let's eat. We have nothing to do." Someone grinned and said, "In order to see Little Nine, I have to go too." Someone laughed and scolded, "What are you looking at? Little Nine is Han Fei's girlfriend now." "Pooh." Han Fei staggered. "Are you kidding me? Does it have anything to do with me?" Han Fei hurriedly shouted, "Well? Don't talk nonsense. The relationship between us is pure and innocent. We are neighbors, pure neighbors." Someone sneered. "Han Fei, don't take it for granted. You are the first to enter Little Nine's yard." Someone echoed, "That's right. Young man, you should cherish the opportunity." Han Fei ignored them and went straight to Yushire's house. Yushire, the guy who squatted at the door to eat, had just walked into the 300-meter sword zone, and this guy squatted on the side of the road with a bowl in his hand, looking at him. At this moment, seeing Han Fei coming over, he chuckled. Han Fei was lost for words. "Who smiled at you?" This guy was really stupid. Han Fei smiled. "What are you eating? Would you like to come to my house for lunch?" Yushire nodded with a smile, and then said, "Do you want to drink fish soup? I'll get you a bowl." Han Fei thought for a moment. Since he hadn't had breakfast this morning, he nodded. "Okay." This time, it was Yushire who was surprised. However, he quickly got up, smiled, and put the bowl on the stone by the door, and immediately ran into the house. After a while, a bowl of fish was carried out. Yushire said with embarrassment, "I don't know how to make it. It may not be very delicious. Don't mind me." He took the bowl and the chopsticks and sat down on a rock. "I don't mind." Because he had nothing to say, Han Fei slurped up the fish soup in a few mouthfuls. Then he glanced at Yushire and said with a smile, "You should go to Miss Yu's place to ask for some flowers and plants." Yushire blushed a little and said with embarrassment, That's not very good." Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. Something is wrong. Yu reminded him to call Yushire. Yushire would blush when he heard Yu's name. Could it be? Both of them were interested in that. Han Fei smiled slightly. "Okay, thank you for the fish soup. I'm going back to prepare lunch." It was Han Fei's habit to treat people to lunch. He felt that when he came to a new place, he could tell whether a person was good or bad just by having a meal. Besides, at the very beginning, he showed some respect to them. In the future, if they met, it would be easy to talk to them. Even if they didn't deal with each other, he could know them early. Most importantly, he wanted to see how these people would be intoxicated by his fancy cooking. In terms of strength and realm, there might be many people here who were not weaker than him. But in terms of cooking, he had to show that no one in this world was better than him. As soon as Han Fei came back, he saw Qing Chen was already wandering in front of his door. Han Fei paused. "Wait, why are you here?" Qing Chen chuckled. "I'm here for lunch. I'm a little early." "It doesn't matter." Han Fei glanced at him and found that he was dirty again. Immediately, he stretched out his hand and a water ball appeared. "Okay, how about I teach you how to cook?" Qing Chen immediately shook his head. "No, no. Just eat other people's food. How troublesome is it for me to cook by myself?" Han Fei was speechless. "Don't you find it troublesome to eat and drink for free?" Han Fei waved his hand and the big array disappeared. He said lightly, "Okay, just help me get some tables and chairs. This is simple. I'll be responsible for cooking." Just as Han Fei took out a lot of ultra-quality materials and was about to refine some big pots, he saw a floating figure slowly walking towards his home. Han Fei was surprised. "Jiuyin, so early? Didn't she refuse to eat?" Qing Chen waved his paw. "Beauty, here." Han Fei glanced at Qing Chen in disdain. "This guy is too unreliable. He's almost as good as Zhang Xuanyu." At this moment, Han Fei discovered that Jiuyin weapon was actually a writing brush, which was hung on her waist. It was the same as Chao Jiaren's flute. Coming to Han Fei's yard, Jiuyin bowed slightly to Han Fei and then said, "May I come in?" Han Fei glanced at Qing Chen. "Look at how polite he is." Han Fei said lazily, "Come in. Today, I'm holding a banquet at the Empyrean waterfall. Everyone who comes is a guest." Jiuyin tapped her feet slightly and floated into Han Fei's yard. Jiuyin looked at Han Fei deeply. "Thank you for the array you drew yesterday. I've already had an epiphany." Han Fei asked in surprise, "You had an epiphany just like that?" Jiuyin nodded slightly. "Yes, I never thought that arrays could be drawn in this way. As long as I seal them with spiritual power, I can even make them into talismans. I owe you a big favor." Han Fei was speechless. This woman's comprehension ability is really high. Is this the reason why she could cultivate to the level of a peak-level hidden fissure so quickly? Han Fei waved his hand. "No problem. We'll talk about the favor later. But I'm just about to cook. Would you like to sit here first?" Jiuyin was about to say something, when Han Fei suddenly took out a lobster more than 30 meters long. Immediately, he retracted his words and said softly, "Can I borrow your table for a moment?" Han Fei nodded. "Of course, you can use it." So, Han Fei and Qing Chen saw Jiuyin run to the bluestone table in front of the door and draw. Qing Chen ran over, bumped into Han Fei, and said telepathically, "Not bad, brother. You're making progress so fast." Han Fei said angrily, "Where's your table maker? Go back and forth. Just cut down a big tree and you can make a lot of tables and chairs." Han Fei threw out 5 or 6 creatures at once. Qing Chen exclaimed from time to time, "Exotic creatures, all exotic creatures. Are people so particular about food nowadays?" Han Fei sneered. "What do you know? Eating is also a great Tao. There are 3,000 great Taos, but they all lead to the same destination." Jiuyin was also a little surprised. Isn't this guy a little too extravagant? Throwing out these ingredients, Han Fei activated the spiritual fire transformation. After a while, 5 big pots and a bunch of delicate dishes, plates, and bowls were refined by him. Suddenly, Han Fei saw a yellow shadow suddenly appear in his yard, standing on the head of a big fish. Seeing Big Yellow, Han Fei couldn't help but smile. "Are you staying here for lunch?" Big Yellow looked at Han Fei with bright eyes. "Can't I eat now?" Han Fei was stunned for a moment. You want to eat now? That's fine. Then I'll pick a smaller one for. Before Han Fei finished speaking, Big Yellow's body suddenly expanded and turned into a cat monster, nearly 7 or 8 meters tall and nearly 20 meters long. Under Han Fei's speechless gaze, this bastard cat actually took away a starry sea flying fish that Han Fei wanted to use as an ingredient. After a while, not far from Han Fei's yard, there was the sound of snorting and chewing. Oh, a cat is indeed a cat. Han Fei was deboning and removing impurities. One after another, people came over. The first to come were Wang Dashui and Bai Lu. Bai Lu wanted to come over and help. However, when she saw that Han Fei's ingredients were piled up like a mountain, she immediately gave up this idea and turned around to run to Jiuyin. Bai Lu said with a smile, Yo! Xiaojiu, you're here so early. Then, the two of them fell silent and seemed to be talking to each other via voice transmission. Seeing that he couldn't help, Wang Dashui carried the big green door, stood at the door, and began to greet the guests. After a while, more and more people came. Wu Ming arrived with a sword. Ning Jingyao even complained that Han Fei used a good knife to cut vegetables. Yu brought a lot of flowers and plants over. Without Han Fei asking her, she began to help Han Fei plant the flowers and plants. When Yu Shire came, he squatted beside Han Fei's huge kitchen and studied. Someone couldn't help but say, Han Fei. We have so many people here. Are you going to give us sashimi? Someone rolled his eyes. Does sashimi need a pot? At this time, there was no complete creature in front of Han Fei. They had all turned into pieces of meat. Hearing these people's jokes, he chuckled. Don't panic, everyone. The show has just begun. 4th. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 831. This time, a total of 82 people came, not counting those who hadn't come yet. Liquor and juice were placed on the table, and Han Fei smiled slyly. Since you've eaten my dishes, you'll owe me a favor. You'll have to pay me back in the future. Swish. 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 5 giant pots were lined up, and the fish oil was sizzling. Han Fei didn't open the pot, but with a thought, lobster, squid, ice fish, bloody clam, and a cluster of wisteria white vanilla began to fuse. Damn, Han Fei, are you cooking or refining? Someone was quite curious. This cooking technique is unheard of. Yes, this time, Han Fei changed his original cooking technique. He cut the 4 exotic creatures and the wisteria white vanilla he got from the demonic forest channel into pieces, fused them with the refining technique, and embellished them with the fragrance of the wisteria white vanilla. In a moment, 5 10-meter-long meat dragons with 2 horns on their heads and 4 limbs appeared in the air. Wow! Someone was dumbfounded. Is this cooking? Yu Shire, who had been standing next to him, was completely dumbfounded at this moment. This cooking technique is extraordinary. Zhou Yinling looked at the 5 meat dragons hanging in the air curiously. Is this what Han Fei meant by eating? Not only are the ingredients high-end, but the cooking technique is also so unique. Han Fei put on a smile, and 5 clouds of spiritual energy immediately enveloped the 5 flood dragons. Clatter. With a snap of Han Fei's fingers, 5 balls of spiritual energy flames were ignited at the dragon claws with a sizzling sound, quickly rising, and the flames wrapped into a ball. When Han Fei saw that the meat was tender and white, he grabbed with one hand, and the 5 pot lids were pulled away. Hot fish oil flew out, and new fish oil was poured into the pot. The golden fish oil was poured down from the 5 meat dragons. Under Han Fei's control, it completely stuck to the meat dragons. In an instant, golden light flickered here, dazzling everyone. At some point, Big Yellow was already squatting on the wall of Han Fei's house, his eyes wide open, and saliva dripping from the corners of his mouth. Because Han Fei used wisteria white vanilla, when the fish oil was poured on them, everyone's mind became much clearer. At the same time, dozens of gazes landed on this place. A figure rushed over and stood beside Big Yellow in an instant. It was a little girl with 2 playful braids. She was dressed in a variety of colors. At this moment, it was looking curiously at the meat dragon that was gradually being dyed golden in the air. Han Fei enveloped the 5 meat dragons with spiritual energy. At the same time, more than 20 kinds of seasonings were poured into the oil pan in batches. Rip! The fragrance suddenly soared into the sky. All the diners who smelled it changed their expressions and swallowed their saliva. Qing Chen was the closest to Yushire, so he couldn't help but wipe his mouth with his sleeve. But at this moment, he didn't dare to disturb Han Fei, so he could only look at the sky, the pot, and Han Fei. Many people's faces were filled with fear and they held their breaths. Bai Lu opened her mouth wide, looked at Han Fei in surprise, and murmured, "Little junior brother is so amazing." Yui was stunned for a moment. She looked at the meat dragon in midair and thought, wouldn't it be more beautiful if I added the fragrance of petals? Zhou Yinling also forgot to draw. At this juncture, she really couldn't help but look. It was the first time she had seen someone cook in such a strange way. Nangong Xian said he wouldn't come, but at this moment, he was already standing at the door of Han Fei's house. Yi Qingfeng was speechless. At this moment, he was holding a teacup and standing beside Yushire. Granny Yin was also speechless. At some point, she had also sat on Big Yellow's back. A bright smile appeared on Han Fei's face. He sniffed twice and knew that the seasonings were almost ready. As he drew several arrays with his hands, clouds and mist floated over and wrapped the 5 meat dragons. Seeing this scene, Zhou Yinling couldn't help but stand up. Is this an array? Cooking can also be related to arrays? Yui was also taken aback. Arrays? Clatter. As Han Fei snapped his fingers, flames shone in the clouds and mist, dyeing the clouds crimson. The flames lasted for about 2 minutes. The clouds and mist suddenly became cold, turned into frost, and then dissipated in an instant. Swish! In an instant, golden light flickered, and the red glow golden bead was suspended in the air. Within 100 meters, it was all a vast pale gold color. The golden dragon flew and rushed to the dining table. When the dragon soared, the clouds and mist condensed into frost, covering the dragon's body. Only then did the golden color faintly disappear, and the gold and blue colors merged. Han Fei roared again, and the fragrant sauce in the pot, controlled by Han Fei, flew up the dragon's body like 5 huge water snakes and poured down. At this second, as many as 153 people came to watch, and all of them were shocked. Someone sighed and said, "It's a marvelous skill, a marvelous skill." Someone swallowed. I've never seen anyone cook like this in my life. It's too amazing. Someone was drooling, staring at the floating smoke, and said in amazement, "Didn't the cloud mist array dissipate? Why are there clouds and mist floating on the table?" Han Fei chuckled and said lightly, "I burned it with spiritual fire twice. The meat dragons are tender on the inside and crispy on the outside, but still hot on the outside." At this time, frost crystals fell, and the cold and hot met, naturally causing smoke to evaporate. Then, with the sauce, I covered the outer layer and wrapped the frost in the middle, so that the smoke wouldn't evaporate in an instant and naturally formed clouds and mist. Han Fei waved his hand. "Everyone, you can start now. You're welcome to have a taste. The bowls and chopsticks are all on the table." Meow. Wait a minute. Suddenly, Granny Yin yelled, and everyone couldn't help but stop. Everyone complained in their hearts, "Old lady, you can't do this. Big Yellow's mouth is so big. It can eat a whole dragon by itself." Meow, Granny Yin patted Big Yellow's head. "Why are you panicking? You just need to have a taste of it. Give the first serving to Little Nine." Suddenly, the crowd fell silent. Han Fei paused, thinking that he was hallucinating. "That's not good, is it?" Zhou Yinling also held the brush in panic, lowered her head, and blushed. She was very nervous. Granny Yin said to Han Fei via voice transmission, give the first serving to little Nine and help her. She cultivates the freedom technique, and she's only one step away from becoming a law enforcer. In an instant, many people looked thoughtful and roughly understood what Granny Yin was thinking. In the entire Empyrean waterfall, no one had become a law enforcer. And now, little Nine, the only one who cultivated the fastest and had the highest talent, felt uncomfortable because of the freedom technique. Therefore, there was a critical step that she couldn't take for the time being. Bai Lu also said via voice transmission, little junior brother, you may indeed need your help. So far, a total of 37 people have come to help little Nine become a law enforcer. As a result, none of those bastards can enter little Nine's yard. No matter what your purpose is, help her. Yi Qingfeng also said via voice transmission, Han Fei, help little Nine become a law enforcer and help your heaven spirit detoxifying insect reach level 40. Han Fei trembled. These people are going all out for Zhou Ling. Han Fei smiled and said, that's how it should be. Without blushing, Han Fei strode to the table, picked up a large piece of meat with his chopsticks, and walked to Zhou Ling. When Han Fei walked up to Zhou Ling, he could even hear her erratic breathing and thumping heart. Han Fei smiled faintly. Come on, have a taste. Zhou Ling blushed and raised her head slightly. Seeing the smile on Han Fei's lips, she immediately lowered her head. Seeing that Zhou Ling's knuckles were clenched so tightly that they were even turning blue, Han Fei immediately said, let go of your stubbornness and be at ease. Hurry up and eat. Don't dawdle. Let go of my stubbornness and be at ease. Zhou Ling was slightly shocked. After a moment of silence, she suddenly raised her head and looked at Han Fei. This time, Han Fei clearly felt that the girl in front of him seemed to have changed. Suddenly, Zhou Ling looked straight at Han Fei as if she had made a major decision. She smiled, took the plate, picked up a piece of meat, and put it into her mouth. Kacha! As soon as she took a bite, the surrounding spiritual energy surged over in an instant. Han Fei hurriedly stepped back, and someone protected the meat dragons on the table with a solemn expression. Granny Yin murmured, it's done, it's done. At that moment, the spiritual clouds were like a storm, and the entire Empyrean waterfall was surging with spiritual energy. Between heaven and earth, black colors were vaguely soaring. In a moment, in the twisted jungle, someone scanned this place from the sky. Deep in the transverse mountain, someone soared into the sky. In the central city, someone raised his head and said in surprise, has someone become a law enforcer at the Empyrean waterfall? Yin Shui or Nangong Xian? This was the first time that Han Fei had seen someone become a law enforcer. Apart from the spiritual energy storm, there seemed to be other changes in the weather. Solemnly, Han Fei calculated with his fingers, but he didn't sense anything. Immediately, Han Fei took a deep breath. Law enforcer. What law? What does the title of law enforcer mean? Suddenly, Han Fei felt that he seemed to have missed something. Looking at the void again, there was a strange power flashing, and a power that he was not familiar with was being poured into Zhou Ling's body. The power of laws. Next to Han Fei, Wang Dashui said to him via voice transmission, little junior brother, pay attention. Breaking the law enforcer and holding a wisp of the laws of heaven and earth is the meaning of law enforcer. Han Fei looked at Wang Dashui in a daze. What do you mean? Wang Dashui said, law enforcers will master a wisp of laws, which will give you an extraordinary power. That's why it's called law enforcer. Little junior brother, you've made a great contribution this time. 5th update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 832. Mystic light flashed, and spiritual energy hung upside down like a long river. This breakthrough lasted for half an hour before it gradually dissipated. At this moment, there were more than 500 people around the Empyrean waterfall. Where did those people come from? Han Fei's banquet hadn't started yet. After waiting for so long, Zhou Ling's clothes fluttered, and she suddenly opened her eyes. Above the sky, 100-meter-long word fell from the sky. Han Fei couldn't help but look up, only to see the word seal. The moment this big word fell, many people felt that the spiritual energy in their bodies was blocked, and their souls seemed to be oppressed by some kind of power. Old man Nangong Xian exclaimed in shock, "You've grasped a seal. That's strange. It seems to be able to seal the flow of spiritual energy and suppress the soul from leaving the body. It's a very domineering word." Hearing this, Han Fei couldn't help but try to perceive it. However, he was shocked to find that his perception was useless. He tried to mobilize the spiritual energy in his body again. Fortunately, it could still flow, but the efficiency was directly reduced by half. Han Fei couldn't help but be shocked. Although he could still defeat peak-level hanging fishers with a 50% discount, he was only equivalent to an ordinary peak-level hanging fisher, right? Is this the power of law enforcers? This time, many other people who came to Han Fei's house were also shocked. Their reaction was almost the same as Han Fei's. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, law enforcers, what does it mean to be an explorer? At this time, Zhou Yinling gently stretched out a hand and twisted her palm. The words suddenly disappeared, and everyone's power returned again. Zhou Yinling took a deep look at Han Fei and bowed to thank him. "I owe you another big favor." Granny Yin said with a smile, "Little Jiu, congratulations. I knew it would work. It's a pity that the previous 37 were useless. You've been delayed until now." Yi Qingfeng laughed. "Not bad, not bad. Very strong laws. No wonder you're little Jiu." Bai Lu interjected, "In my opinion, our junior brother is still the best." Wang Dashui immediately echoed, "Yes, yes, our junior brother is also very strong. Congratulations on becoming a law enforcer." Someone expressed his friendliness to Zhou Yinling. Someone came from afar and laughed. "Zhou Yinling, I knew it. There's no reason that the fastest cultivating genius on the Scattered Stars Island can't become a law enforcer." Someone from Central City said, "Congratulations on becoming a law enforcer. Little Nine, remember to make a trip to Central City after you stabilize your strength." A group of people came to congratulate him. Granny Yin said angrily, "Let's go. Can't you see that we are having a dinner inside the Empyrean waterfall? What are you doing here?" Immediately, a group of people shouted, "Yes, yes, yes. That's right. Why are there more than 500 people all of a sudden?" Meow. Granny Yin's face changed slightly. "Big Yellow, go grab it." Seeing that Zhou Yinling's breakthrough was over, Granny Yin couldn't wait to see her cat. Why would he care about anything else? Big Yellow pounced on it at once. Qing Chen dragged Yu Shire and said, "Hurry up, take the opportunity to grab a dragon head. Let's split it in half." Someone exclaimed, "Don't touch my dragon." Someone was surprised. "Fuck, you bastards, leave some for me." The little girl with 2 braids appeared next to Han Fei with a swoosh, holding a plate with a large piece of meat on it. While stuffing the meat into her mouth, she looked at Han Fei curiously. "You are the weirdest person I have ever seen. A dish actually helped you become a law enforcer. Can you also cook for me in the future?" Han Fei looked at the girl with a dumbfounded expression. He had never seen her before. But according to her appearance, she should be Li Luoluo, the demon girl. The little girl smiled fiercely. "That's a deal. If you help me become a law enforcer, I will help you kill 100 guys who you don't like." Han Fei. With that, the little girl ran to Zhou Yinling and grabbed her arm. "Little Nine, how is it? How is it? How strong are the law enforcers? Are you still able to write the word seal? Let me see." Zhou Yinling glanced at Han Fei and then looked at Li Luoluo. "In fact, the seal is not absolute suppression. I can only control a wisp of the rules of this seal. If I become an explorer, I'm afraid I can seal a place." Han Fei was amazed. Seal a place? Does it mean that one person can seal a large area? She's really strong. However, at the same time, Han Fei realized that Zhou Yinling's cultivation speed was too fast, wasn't it? This was only the second day since he came to the Empyrean waterfall. A law enforcer. She was a whole major realm higher than him, and 2 minor realms higher. This made Han Fei a little speechless. Am I not a genius? Han Fei smiled bitterly. Sure enough, there were still geniuses. He was really a frog in a well. Bam! With a loud bang, a figure was thrown out of the courtyard by someone. Then, someone flew up. Before Han Fei had time to eat the 5 big dragons, they had been swept away. Someone grabbed a dragon's foot and ran away. Someone grabbed a dragon's tail and ran away. Someone grabbed a dragon's head, and someone grabbed a large piece of meat. They were all hidden fishers, and they were too ruthless. They flew all over the sky, all kinds of big wings flapping. Looking at the empty table, Han Fei was lost for words. Have these people never eaten anything? They're all animals. Of all the people here, only Granny Een and the others didn't fight for the food. Big Yellow, a cat, was biting and pouncing on a dragon's head. Han Fei hurriedly shouted, fearing that the people who had gathered here would all run away. Han Fei shouted with a smile, "Thank you for coming today. After I become a hidden fisher in a few days, I'd like to have a competition with you. I hope you won't refuse." Someone smiled and said, "That's fine. Just come." Wu Ming said casually, "I'm looking forward to it." Ning Jingyao said, "You've been on the Scattered Stars Island for a year and a half, haven't you? You're only a hidden fisher now. That's too slow. However, you're welcome to test your skills with me." Someone smiled and said, "Anytime. However, I think you'd better make the breakthrough in the Wind Sky Canyon. Catch a suitable Wind Sky Wing in 3 days and absorb their wings first." Someone echoed, "That's right. Don't delay it. It's best to catch them when you just become a hidden fisher. The sooner, the better." The Wind Sky Canyon. Wind Sky Wings. Han Fei was stunned to hear that. That's right. Hidden fishers could fly, but their wings didn't grow naturally but came from fish. Was this fish called Wind Sky Wings? It sounded like he was quite powerful. In any case, Han Fei had achieved his purpose. He felt that his combat skills needed to be improved after he became a hidden fisher. By then, he would have to find someone to test them on. Those people were outstanding even if they weren't hidden fishers. Only by sparring with them could he know what kind of combat skills were most suitable for him. Seeing that everybody left, Zhou Yinling came close too. Han Fei, I'm going back to stabilize my realm. I'll come to you in a few days. Han Fei waved his hand and said, Go back, go back. Consolidate your realm." Han Fei thought to himself, "Why are you coming to me in a few days? These 2 huge favors couldn't be repaid so easily." A moment later, when almost everybody was gone, Bai Lu said with a smile, "Junior brother, do you want me to clean up for you?" These people were just like that. They were used to being lazy. They're all loafers who run away after eating. Han Fei instantly smiled. No, senior brother, sister-in-law, you can go back now. I'll clean up myself and prepare to cultivate." Bai Lu grinned, "That's fine. However, junior brother, you really shouldn't make a breakthrough here. When you're ready, you'd better find someone to go to the Wind Sky Canyon with you. Make a breakthrough there and catch a good Wind Sky Wing." Han Fei asked in surprise, "There are good and bad Wind Sky Wings?" Bai Lu said with a smile, "Of course, there are regular, rare, bizarre, mutated, and even legendary. There are many kinds of Wind Sky Wings, and they vary according to the size of their wings. Someone will explain them to you when you get there. You'd better choose carefully and don't act rashly." Han Fei nodded solemnly. In that case, he did have to choose carefully. He was quite curious that there were so many kinds of fish. A moment later, Han Fei's flowing water villa was empty. Suddenly, Han Fei sensed that someone was staring at him. He looked back, only to find that Big Yellow was still licking his lips next to his swimming pool. Han Fei was amused. You still want to eat? Big Yellow's eyes widened as if full of curiosity. Do you have more? Looking at the messy room, Han Fei smiled bitterly. Yes, I haven't had any either. Let's eat together. Hearing that there was more, Big Yellow immediately meowed and ran to Han Fei. He stood firmly on the stone platform where Zhou Ling was painting, waiting for the meal to be served. A moment later, Han Fei made himself a hot pot. One man and one cat sat next to the pot. Seeing that the cat was digging, Han Fei said, "Wash your feet, wash your feet." Big Yellow glanced at Han Fei in disdain. My claws are made of spiritual energy. They're not dirty. Han Fei chuckled and picked up a piece of lobster meat, putting it on his plate. Then he said unhurriedly, Big Yellow, do you know the guy at the bottom of the pool? Is he strong? Big Yellow glanced at Han Fei. You mean the big turtle? The turtle doesn't move. It's not scary at all. Han Fei was stunned. It's a turtle down there. Big Yellow didn't seem to hear Han Fei at all. Its attention was on the pot. What Han Fei said, it missed all of it. Only Han Fei slightly frowned. Why is there a big turtle down there? I thought it was a person. 6th update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 833. Han Fei was still curious about the Empyrean waterfall. On the other hand, the old tortoise, who was feared by both the enforcers and the explorers, must have cultivated for many years. When the rock-holding turtle appeared, it gave him the god-scaring painting and the embroidery needle. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder if this tortoise also had good stuff. At least, according to Big Yellow, this turtle wasn't scary. Han Fei thought, if even a cat isn't scary, then I don't have to be scared, right? With this in mind, Han Fei felt that starting from tomorrow, he could go fishing in the lake first. At night, Han Fei poured a lot of ultra-quality materials from Forge the Universe, even materials that were even better than the ultra-quality ones. In the demonic forest channel, Han Fei didn't give all the materials to Lu Renquang. At least, he didn't give the ultra-quality materials from Yu Hanjia's shop. After all, at this moment, Han Fei lacked weapons. Frostmourne couldn't be used easily. The embroidery needle didn't recognize its master. The cosmic sword didn't dare to let it recognize its master, although it could. And the harpoon was specially used by the sea demons. Now, Han Fei only had the golden seal and the infinity water. The infinity water was not a weapon. Han Fei felt that he could use this drop of water in combination with the million knife art. In the past, his realm was low and his array skills were poor, so he often used the infinity water. But the effect was not as good as he imagined, mainly because the attack power was not enough, or maybe because he didn't know how to use it. After all, it was a precious treasure, and it couldn't only be used as a knife and shape-shifting. The day before yesterday, Han Fei used the river as a knife outside the club in such a high-profile way. In addition to showing his array skills, it was actually so that when he used the infinity water in the future, he would have a good reason to do so. The purpose was also to tell others that he was very talented in turning water into a knife. Of course, in addition to these, the blood-drinking knife had to be refined again, and the fishing rod also needed a better one. After all, he would have to refine the void lines in a while. Among the large pile of materials, Han Fei's first choice was naturally the bone of the mystifying dragon and the 9 dragon veins he got from Old Han. The void lines weren't refined through refining methods. Instead, they were refined through one's own soul fire. This meant that every time he refined a void line, he would be refining a bit of his soul fire. When the soul fire and the fishing line fused, the void could be created. At this moment, Han Fei's face was ferocious, and 3 small balls of soul fire floated out. Then, the soul fire was attached to the dragon tendon. Through the technique of the divine manipulation technique, Han Fei's face was slightly twisted, as if something was added to his mind. Soul thread? Yes, Han Fei felt that the fishing line was no longer a line but a weird soul line. As long as he willed it, these lines could be attached to the fishing rod in the blink of an eye. What surprised Han Fei even more was that the soul threads could be split. In truth, he didn't need to refine 3 dragon tendons at once. He only needed to refine one, and he would be able to split his soul thread into several dozen. Han Fei was about to cry out that he had suffered a great loss, but then he found a problem. When one thread is split into multiple threads, its strength and maneuverability seem to have been reduced. So that's how it is. With my current strength, one thread can be divided into 3 void lines at most, and the control is just right. So, Han Fei smiled. The 3 void lines could now be effectively divided into 9, which was quite easy to control. Han Fei tried to use his fingers as a fishing rod and control the pile of materials on the ground with the void lines. Although it couldn't be completely smooth, it was not a problem at all in terms of control. What an amazing technique! However, 3 is enough for now, or my soul will be weakened. I have to make a fishing rod with a line to confuse others. With a thought, the demon purification pot appeared. 5 or 6 kinds of semi-divine weapon materials, a dragon tendon, and a dragon tooth were sucked into it. After a moment, more than 800,000 points of spiritual energy were consumed, and a blue and white fishing rod floated out of the water. Name a dragon sting rod. Introduction. It's made of the bones, tendons, teeth, and iron essence of the mystifying dragon. The rod and line are one. When not fishing, the dragon sting can be used as a dragon sting whip. Quality. A semi-divine weapon. Remarks. If you can attach the soul of an exotic mutant creature or above, there is a certain chance that it will become a low-quality divine weapon. After getting this whip, Han Fei couldn't help but grin. In this way, he actually had 2 kinds of fishing lines now. One was a normal fishing line, which could be used for fishing normally, and the other was a void line, which could be controlled at will. Except for these 2 things. After another while, a sharp kitchen knife, a silver white rod, and 3 spikes made of 1,000-year demon stings were placed in front of Han Fei. Seeing these 3 things, Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. He had been wondering if he could also refine the blue sea wandering dragon bow into a semi-divine weapon. But Han Fei was surprised to find that the materials were not enough. That's right. Materials above ultra quality are too rare. I'd better wait for a chance in the future and change them into divine weapons. At this point, all the weapons were ready. Except for the blue sea wandering dragon bow, the semi-divine weapons he had were the blood-drinking knife, the dragon sting fishing rod, the golden seal, the golden battle suit, the demon-slaying spike, and the silver rod. Among them, the demon-slaying spike was a hidden weapon, used for sneak attacks, and would only be used when things went south. After this, Han Fei was going to find 2 powerful rod combat skills and seal combat skills. Finally, he would find a combat skill that was most suitable for him through these people at the Empyrean waterfall. In the end, Han Fei intended to focus on the art of invincibility and the most suitable combat skill, and the others would be auxiliary. At this moment, Han Fei had already planned the route of becoming a hidden fisher and was waiting to become a hidden fisher. The next morning, Han Fei's yard was clean again. Han Fei made himself a bowl of shrimp porridge and dispersed the mist with a wave of his hand. As a result, Han Fei immediately saw a man and a cat squatting in the corner of the yard, staring at each other. Qing Chen. Big Yellow. Meow. Qing Chen chuckled. Brother, are you eating? Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Were these 2 shameless guys waiting for him to come to his house for dinner? Han Fei said helplessly, Qing Chen, that's too much. Do you want to come to my house to eat every day in the future? Qing Chen said lazily, of course not. Brother, if you need any help in the future, just come to me. Han Fei waved his hand helplessly. Since you're here, come on in. Big Yellow, I'll make a basin for you. Meow. A cat was a cat after all. Although it could talk, it was hard to change its nature to meow. The shrimp porridge Han Fei made was not much, and it was soon eaten up. Han Fei carried the dragon sting fishing rod and said, Okay, I've finished eating. I'm going fishing. Big Yellow, are you coming? Meow. Yes. Han Fei looked at Qing Chen, who patted his belly and said, I'm not going. I'm leaving. I'll. Han Fei quickly stopped him. No, I don't cook at noon. Qing Chen stared at Han Fei. I'll come back at night. A moment later, the man and the cat came to the edge of the Empyrean waterfall. Han Fei was still speechless. He couldn't help but ask, Big Yellow, Qing Chen is always mysterious. What does he do? Squatting on a rock, Big Yellow looked up at the Empyrean waterfall. He's climbing a mountain. Han Fei followed Big Yellow's gaze and asked in shock, climbing this? Big Yellow nodded. Yes. In the beginning, they would often be washed down, but later on, they would not. He climbed to the top to hone his body. Han Fei was even more surprised. Qing Chen is a body practitioner. Big Yellow meowed. It squatted sideways on a rock and swung its tail, which quickly became like a fishing line and began to droop. Han Fei couldn't help but be amused. What an amazing cat. It's fishing with its tail. However, Han Fei sensed slightly, only to discover that the cat's tail that fell into the water had changed at some point. Strands of yellow hair drooped down, looking no different from the fishing line. Big Yellow meowed at Han Fei. Don't sense it. You've scared the fish away. You'd better not sense it yourself. The fish here are very, very smart. Very smart. Han Fei smiled and didn't talk to Big Yellow anymore. He seemed to have thrown out the fishing rod, but the fishing line was not hidden at all. It was just a disguise. Because he didn't sense it, Big Yellow didn't know how Han Fei did it. That made it easier for Han Fei to use the void lines. When the void lines dived into the water, Han Fei found that his spiritual power could still perceive the area within 100 meters through the void lines. Soon, Han Fei found some red, half-meter-long fish in the pool that looked like butterfly wings, floating vertically in the water. Huh. This fish is rather rare. It must be a kind of butterfly fish, right? Han Fei slowly extended the void lines to the nearest butterfly fish. There was no telling if it was alarmed, but the butterfly fish shivered and suddenly sank almost 10 meters. Then, its round eyes seemed to be wary of something. Seeing that, Han Fei subconsciously stopped controlling the void lines. About 10 seconds later, the butterfly fish was still standing vertically, as if it were swallowing something. Han Fei was slightly intrigued. It was indeed very vigilant. It could even vaguely detect the void lines. This time, Han Fei retracted some of his spiritual power. His senses became blurred, and he couldn't see the butterfly fish clearly anymore. However, it didn't stop him from extending the void lines to the butterfly fish again. This time, the butterfly fish didn't have any special reaction. It rolled its eyes and seemed slightly confused. Then, it continued swallowing as if nothing had happened. The 9 void lines landed around the butterfly fish at a very slow speed. When Han Fei tried to catch the butterfly fish with one of the void lines, it suddenly shivered and tried to escape. Han Fei hurried to take action. At the same time, 3 void lines caught the fish's tail, head, and one of its fins and wings. Whew! What a smart fish! Seeing that the butterfly fish was caught, Han Fei hurried to catch the other parts of the butterfly fish with the other 6 void lines. When the 9 void lines caught the butterfly fish, Han Fei sensed something, and his vision became blurred. About 10 seconds later, Han Fei found that he had an extra vision, which was the vision of a fish. The vision was quite strange. The range of his vision was at least 270 degrees, if not 360 degrees. Everything that appeared in front of him was changing shape. However, that wasn't the key. Han Fei was appalled at this moment. Hiss! He gasped. It turned out that the void lines could not only catch its soul but also deprive its body and will. Once the creature that was caught was completely locked and couldn't escape, he would be able to dominate its soul. What an awesome divine manipulation technique. Han Fei's face changed. If that was the case, wouldn't he be able to have multiple clones? All the creatures that were hooked were turned into puppets. What a terrifying hook technique it was. The 7th chapter. Asking for votes. First of all, it's either a woman or the female lead. Let's reply in unison. The characters are designed out of necessity. There might be some romance, but the female lead isn't. Also, my computer is infected. Everybody in the group knows that the antivirus can steal my personal information, sabotage the system, and establish a connection for hackers to take control. I was so scared that I had to back up and change the antivirus software. Okay, asking for monthly votes. Yesterday's 4th chapter. Today's 7th chapter. Waiting for the 5th chapter on March 1st. Asking for monthly votes. There are so many updates. Also, the exciting plot is yet to come. Soon, end of this chapter. Chapter 834. Voila! A splash was raised on the surface of the water, but it was incomparable to the waves raised by the waterfall. Han Fei saw that a butterfly fish that was caught by the long hair on Big Yellow's tail was hooked to him. Big Yellow sat down on a rock lazily, completely disregarding the red spikes on the surface of the butterfly fish's body. Countless small holes appeared on the butterfly fish's body, and it was clear that it had been killed by Big Yellow. Information popped up in Han Fei's eyes. Name: Red Blood Butterfly Fish. Introduction: This is a butterfly fish that lives in waterfalls at the bottom of the sea. It likes to swim against tides and can absorb the power of nature. When it's in danger, 36 red thorns will burst out of its body, which can penetrate into the enemy's body and explode. The butterfly wings can be separated from its body and turned into clones for easy escape. Level 48 Equality Rare Spiritual Energy greater than 2,864 points. Effect: It can significantly improve your physique if it's eaten over a long period of time. Collectible Butterfly Wings. Note: the butterfly wing clones have no combat ability at all. When Han Fei saw the information, he was intrigued. Could the butterfly wings turn people into clones? Voila! Big Yellow began to eat the fish after it was caught. It seemed that in its world, a cat could eat all the time, especially fish. Although it was not as delicious as Han Fei's cooking, it didn't taste bad for a cat. Seeing that Han Fei had caught a red blood butterfly fish too, Big Yellow was stunned. Big Yellow paused and stared at Han Fei with his eyes wide open. Big Yellow asked, "You caught one so quickly?" Han Fei was amused. "What are you talking about? Can't I catch one?" Meow. Big Yellow cried. They came to fish, but none of them caught any. Only this cat is talented enough to catch them. Han Fei asked, "None of them caught any?" Big Yellow nodded. Yes. The red blood butterfly fish are very smart. You can't catch them unless they come to you on their own. I caught them with my cat aura. What did you catch them with? Han Fei was stunned for a long time. Then he said casually, "I used combat energy." Big Yellow tilted its head and looked at Han Fei, wondering what combat energy was. Han Fei chuckled. "I was just bragging." He couldn't say that he had hooked the soul of the red blood butterfly fish, could he? If that's the case, once Goldie goes back and announces it, I won't have any secrets to speak of. Han Fei cut off 2 butterfly wings casually and threw the butterfly fish to Big Yellow. "You can have it. I won't eat it." Big Yellow slapped the red blood butterfly fish to its feet with its claws and meowed. "Okay, I don't mind too many. But what do you need wings for?" "The wings don't taste good, there's no meat." Han Fei chuckled. "The wings are beautiful." Big Yellow looked at Han Fei as if he were an idiot. Can good-looking make a living? He really couldn't understand humans. Following that, Big Yellow pressed the 2 fishes with its paws and continued to devour them. It ate slowly, as if eating was a form of enjoyment for it. If he ate too fast, the enjoyment would be too short. Ignoring Big Yellow, Han Fei grabbed the 2 butterfly wings and tried to use his spiritual power. The butterfly wings in his hand disappeared, and a phantom of Han Fei appeared beside him. However, this phantom was too vague and looked fake. Big Yellow raised its head again. It's fake. It will be gone after 10 seconds at most. My phantom can only last 10 seconds. As it spoke, a phantom of Big Yellow appeared next to Big Yellow. The illusory Big Yellow and Big Yellow meowed at each other for dozens of breaths. Sure enough, the phantom Big Yellow was gone. Big Yellow meowed and said, if only it could be maintained forever. In that case, I would have a cat to play with. Han Fei sweated. What I was thinking of was a clone. You were thinking of summoning a clone to play with you? You were thinking of summoning a clone to play with you? He reckoned that this cat was too lonely. Of course, Han Fei's idea of summoning a clone was out of the question. The wings of the place were useless. They didn't even need to distinguish them when they fought enemies. Hee hee. Fine, let's keep fishing. A moment later, Han Fei controlled a new red blood butterfly fish. This time, he released the void lines the moment he got the red blood butterfly fish's vision after he controlled them. After the void lines were released, about half a second later, the red blood butterfly fish seemed to be alive. It immediately flew away with its wings and turned into two new red blood butterfly fish. Han Fei glanced at them, only to find that they were much more real than the clones that he and Big Yellow transformed into. When Han Fei tried to control the red blood butterfly fish again, he found that the one he controlled had turned into a clone. The real red blood butterfly fish had turned into one of the clones. Han Fei didn't chase it. This proved at least one thing: once the control of the void lines was stopped, the other party's consciousness would quickly return, and they would immediately realize the danger and try to escape. Han Fei wasn't disappointed. If the other party was controlled by the void lines and turned into a puppet forever, it would be too horrifying. In that case, the divine manipulation technique would be truly invincible. How could it not be horrifying when he could have countless clones with real identities? However, one clone was enough. Han Fei guessed that if he used the void lines to control a human being or a half-mermaid, it would be even more significant. Thinking for a moment, Han Fei decided to try it on a half-mermaid or an inferior man-fish after he became a hidden fisher and got the wind sky wings. When Han Fei controlled another red blood butterfly fish, he wondered how far the void lines could be controlled. However, when he thought of the distance, Han Fei wondered if he could control the red blood butterfly fish to check the old turtle at the bottom of the lake. Han Fei wondered if he could control the red blood butterfly fish to check the old turtle at the bottom of the lake. Even if he could simply withdraw the void lines. With a smile, Han Fei controlled the red blood butterfly fish to dive to the bottom of the lake. However, the depth of the lake was beyond Han Fei's imagination. He dove for more than 20 kilometers, but he still hadn't reached the bottom. Han Fei found that there were fewer and fewer red blood butterfly fish nearby. On the wall of the lake, there were some sea cucumbers and starfish. Among them, there were yellow-blooded sea cucumbers and even a trivariant golden ginseng. However, apart from those creatures, there were only some red blood butterfly fish and a few fluorescent shrimps. However, there wasn't even a single large and powerful creature to be seen. Han Fei decided to collect the trivariant golden ginseng after the exploration. It was hard to find such a treasure in the coastal waters. He didn't expect to run into one at the bottom of the Empyrean waterfall. Han Fei dove for another 20 kilometers. At this moment, he discovered something to his surprise. There were very few creatures nearby. If he hadn't seen a red blood butterfly fish swimming up from the bottom of the lake, he wouldn't have dared to go down. 50 kilometers. 60 kilometers. Han Fei didn't find the bottom until he was 60 kilometers below the lake. Han Fei couldn't help but be surprised. It meant that the lake was 30,000 meters deep. This height was deeper than any place that Han Fei had ever known. Even the Mariana Trench that he once knew was only a little more than 10,000 meters deep. What did it mean that this place was 30,000 meters deep? Then, Han Fei discovered that the bottom of the lake was connected to the underground currents. He was about to control the red blood butterfly fish to check it out, when a terrifying suction force suddenly came over. In the blink of an eye, Han Fei was sucked 5 or 6 kilometers away uncontrollably. Han Fei observed with his mind, only to find that it was an old turtle that was covered in ancient rocks. This old turtle was extremely huge. Its shell was covered in rocks and had a range of 100 meters. Han Fei had never seen a sky-swallowing turtle as big as this one. Unfortunately, through the vision of the red blood butterfly fish, Han Fei couldn't see the specific information of this old turtle at all. However, in any case, it was very strong. The old turtle's eyes, which were bigger than a wok, slowly blinked. Then, Han Fei heard an old voice say, "Human kid, are you here to spy on me?" Han Fei controlled the red blood butterfly fish and seemed to be at a loss. He was considering whether or not he should cut off the void lines and run away. Then the old turtle said, "Not bad. You came to this place with the help of the red blood butterfly fish. Do you know that your soul will be damaged if I swallow it?" Sitting below the Empyrean waterfall, Han Fei's face was slightly stiff. This old turtle was truly extraordinary. At that moment, Han Fei cut off the void lines, and his soul that was attached to the void lines immediately returned. The old turtle said, "Don't run, human kid. Come down. You seem to be a bit special." Han Fei instantly chuckled. "Do you think I'll believe you? I won't go down even if you beat me to death." Hardly had Han Fei retracted his soul when he saw Big Yellow staring at him. Then, he looked at the bottom of the lake and asked in confusion, "Did you go to the big turtle?" Then, Big Yellow continued eating the fish unconcernedly. "No problem. The big turtle can't move and can't eat us." Han Fei heaved a sigh of relief. No wonder. It turns out that he can't move. However, the big turtle's voice echoed in Han Fei's head again, "Human kid, there seems to be demonic chi hidden in your body." "No. It's a power that's more advanced than demonic chi." Han Fei's perception range was exactly 30,000 meters. He replied, "Senior, sorry for disturbing you just now. However, I'm just a normal person." The big turtle was silent for a while. "Your perception can reach the bottom of the lake. But you're still a hanging fisher." Han Fei's body slightly froze. "Damn it, I've been exposed." But the big turtle didn't care at all. "Human, can you get demonic chi? If you can, I can give you some benefits." First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 835. Han Fei was going to leave. He had almost grasped the void lines. He only needed to test it on a half-mermaid or an inferior man-fish to find out how well he could control the divine manipulation technique. For example, could he control the demonic aura in his opponent's body? Would he be able to use his opponent's strength? Would he be able to obtain the other party's knowledge? The red blood butterfly fish were not easy to achieve. He had forgotten to use the cloning ability of the red blood butterfly fish. However, he did not plan to experiment for the time being. It was only his first day of fishing, and he was already caught by the old turtle at the bottom of the pond. However, when Han Fei was about to get up and leave, the old turtle's words made him sit down again. He couldn't help but ask, "Senior, what do you mean?" Hearing that there were benefits, Han Fei was no longer anxious. Anyway, Big Yellow said that the old turtle couldn't be moved. Could it be that it could kill him through his divine soul? That was also unrealistic. He had never heard of anyone dying at the Empyrean waterfall before. The big turtle said unhurriedly, "Don't you human beings all like spirit awakening fluid? I have spirit awakening fluid. If you have demonic chi, I can trade with you." Han Fei was stunned for a moment. "Wait, Senior, why are you so sure that I have demonic chi? I'm a human." The big turtle replied slowly, "For the cultivation of marine creatures, spiritual energy or demonic energy is fine. Spiritual chi could also be transformed into demonic chi, but the speed was not fast. Or, if you can provide power beyond spiritual chi and demonic chi, that's fine too. Han Fei was silent for a while. If he turned into a sea demon, his spiritual energy and demonic energy would be converted quite fast. As for the power above the two powers mentioned by the big turtle, he really didn't have it. Han Fei chuckled. Senior, I think you've misunderstood me. I really don't have demonic chi or stronger power. If you need spiritual chi, I can set up a spiritual chi gathering formation for you so that you have an endless supply of spiritual chi. The big turtle paused and didn't mention the demonic chi again. Instead, it said, there's a spirit awakening spring under me. Since you don't need it, then forget it. However, don't come here through the red blood butterfly fish again. Han Fei secretly gasped. The mouth of the spirit awakening spring. Didn't it mean that there was an infinite amount of spirit awakening fluid under the Empyrean waterfall? Han Fei glanced at Big Yellow and said casually, Big Yellow, I'm going to Senior Ye's house. Take your time fishing. Meow. A cat was a cold animal. It didn't care whether Han Fei was there or not and whether he talked to it or not. It just remembered that Han Fei said he was going to cook at night, so it could go to him at night. Yi Qingfeng's home. Although this old poison told Han Fei before that he was going to push the Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect to level 40, he didn't expect that the Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect would be so powerful. But if he only came over for a cup of tea every afternoon, it would take at least a few months to achieve this goal. So, Han Fei said with a smile, Senior Yi, you have some poisonous grasses or poisonous fruits with high toxicity. Can I dig some? Yi Qingfeng was feeding 2 centipedes in front of a cage. Hearing Han Fei's question, he said leisurely, if the Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect is fed with the same poison, it will gradually develop resistance. How about this, you come here. You put your hand into the cage and let my centipedes bite you. Han Fei's face instantly turned green. Let these disgusting, leggy things bite me. Han Fei took a breath. A poison cultivator was simply too terrifying. If Old Poison's house exploded one day, the entire Empyrean waterfall would be covered by poisons. The Scattered Stars city must have considered this, so they threw Yi Qingfeng to the Empyrean waterfall. Curling his lips, Han Fei walked over, looked at a colorful centipede, and a crimson centipede, and swallowed. I'm just going to stick my hand in like this. Senior Yi, I think you can let them spit out some poison, and I can drink it with tea. Yi Qingfeng sneered. What do you know? Some poisons will have subtle changes when mixed with tea poison. But it's not as simple as biting them. Come on, put your hand in. Han Fei reluctantly put his hand in. Then, he saw 2 big centipedes entwined around his hands, which made Han Fei a little hesitant. A moment later, Han Fei felt a faint stinging pain in his hand, but the 2 centipedes didn't seem to be able to bite through his skin. Yi Qingfeng was also speechless and quickly said, Take your hand out. Take your hand out. Cut a wound on yourself. Don't break my centipede teeth. Han Fei was amused. This was the first time that he had cut a wound and let a highly poisonous thing bite him. Other people would think that he was a psycho if they saw him like this. However, a moment later, when dark green and bright red fine stripes appeared under his skin, Han Fei knew that these 2 poisons were very terrifying. Han Fei felt that his entire arm had gone numb. And the Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect in his dantian moved immediately. It hooked its little claws and began to eat. The poison stripes that spread out on his arm were decreasing at a visible speed. After sitting in Yi Qingfeng's house for half an hour, Han Fei finally recovered. Yi Qingfeng was feeding poisonous grasses to other poisonous insects. Seeing that Han Fei had recovered, he asked leisurely, You haven't leveled up yet? Han Fei shook his head slightly. Not yet. Yi Qingfeng sighed. This is the Heaven Spirit Detoxifying Insect. However, you can't feed it anymore today. I'm afraid that it might die. You can come for a drink tomorrow and feed it some other poisons. Then you'll definitely be able to level up. Okay. In the evening. After dinner, Han Fei drove Qing Chen and Big Yellow away and looked at the Empyrean waterfall leisurely. Spirit awakening fluid was extremely rare. She didn't know how long Granny Een had been raising cats. It should be more than 100 years. She was only level 61. Did he have to spend 100 years raising Shrimp Ritian and the other pets? Han Fei immediately shook his head. When everything was silent, Han Fei cast a breath-concealing array and a concealment array on himself, sneaked out of the door, and came to the edge of the Empyrean waterfall alone. This time, Han Fei directly spoke telepathically, "Senior, although I don't have demonic chi, I have some demonic stones. I have mid-quality, high-quality, and ultra-quality ones. Most of them are mid-quality, followed by high-quality, and the fewest are ultra-quality. Do you think I can exchange them for this?" The big turtle said unhurriedly, "You've come after all. Demonic stones are fine too. However, mid-quality demonic stones can only be exchanged for half a kilogram, high-quality for 5 kilograms, and ultra-quality for 30 kilograms. Can you accept that?" Han Fei slightly frowned. So little. He didn't think demonic stones were useful before. However, he had dug a lot of them in the Sea Demon Mountain. However, he didn't get 1,000 in total. Because he dug them right below the spring of demonic beasts, he didn't get any low-quality ones. He got about 100 mid-quality ones, 600 high-quality ones, and 200 ultra-quality ones. Even if he exchanged all of them, he wouldn't get 10,000 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid. After level 40, 10,000 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid wouldn't be much for the nine-tailed mantis shrimp. Han Fei thought of something. "Senior, I only have 100 mid-quality ones, 300 high-quality ones, and 100 ultra-quality ones. How about 5,000 kilograms first? You know that it's not easy for human beings to get those things." After a brief silence, the big turtle said, "Okay." Han Fei was slightly delighted. He hooked a sea-swallowing seashell on the dragon's sting fishing rod and cast the hook down. A moment later, he pulled up the fishing rod, looked at the 5,000 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid in the sea-swallowing seashell, and stored it in Forge the Universe. Han Fei asked, "Do you want anything else? I can't get demonic chi at all. Maybe what you've sensed from me is the aura of the demonic stones." The big turtle said unhurriedly, "If you can get a life stone, one can be exchanged for 500 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid. If you can get a phoenix spirit ginseng, one can be exchanged for 5,000 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid. If you can get a butian ginseng, one can be exchanged for 50,000 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid." Han Fei was slightly intrigued. Was this big turtle trying to make a breakthrough? He had heard of the phoenix spirit ginseng before. It was said that it was much more nutritious than the trivariant golden ginseng. As for the butian ginseng, he had never heard of it before. As for exchanging demonic chi for spirit awakening fluid, Han Fei would never do that. If it was leaked, he would be held accountable. Even old Han wouldn't be able to help him. After all, he was still locked on the 4th floor of the Scattered Stars prison. A moment later, at home. Han Fei opened the array and summoned the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, Little Gold, and Little Fatty. Han Fei drained the water in the swimming pool and channeled 5,000 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid into it. Plus the 3,000 kilograms in the sea-swallowing seashell that Lu Rinquan gave him, there were 8,000 kilograms in total. Han Fei said, "There are only 8,000 kilograms in total. You can split it evenly." Thump, thump, thump. The 3 contractual spiritual beasts rushed into the pool. A moment later, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp made a breakthrough, but Little Gold and Little Fatty didn't. Wow! Damn it! Han Fei almost burst into tears. 8,000 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid had been drunk, but only the nine-tailed mantis shrimp made a breakthrough. Are you kidding me? Han Fei was amused. How poor they were. It had been more than 5 months since their last breakthrough, almost half a year. Han Fei could almost predict that even if he exchanged all the remaining demonic stones with the big turtle, it would be great if Little Gold and Little Fatty could advance. Alas! Han Fei recalled the nine-tailed mantis shrimp and little gold and looked at little fatty. Do you have any ways to grow quickly? It's so difficult for me to raise you now. Little fatty was still cold, but seeing Han Fei's sigh, it couldn't help but say slowly, if I can come out often and live in the sea all year round, I can grow much faster. Han Fei was slightly tempted, but then he heaved a sigh. There were many problems. The coastal waters were all occupied by human beings. It was impossible to raise them. Otherwise, if the three legendary creatures were discovered, the consequences would be hard to predict. Once an expert attacked them, they would be doomed. Han Fei shook his head. No, is there any other way? Little fatty thought for a long time. Swallow creatures of the same kind. Han Fei's face turned green. Are you a legendary creature? How can I let you swallow creatures of the same kind? I'll definitely take them myself. Even if I don't, I'll seal their souls for them, okay? Han Fei suddenly said, what about exotic and rare creatures? Is it helpful? Little fatty waved its tentacles. It's useful, but you have to eat a lot. Han Fei immediately said, I'll feed you 3 every day. Second update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 836. The next day. After breakfast in the morning, Qing Chen should have gone to cultivate, and Big Yellow continued to fish. Han Fei thought that he would go to Yi Qingfeng's house for tea in the afternoon, so he didn't bother him in the morning. When Han Fei arrived at Wang Dashuai's house, he found that Wang Dashuai carried a big squid back and said that he was going to make a hot pot. Han Fei silently sympathized with him for 3 seconds and then said, Senior brother, I have something to ask you. Wang Dashuai smiled innocently. Little junior brother, just ask me. Han Fei said, Senior brother, is the big turtle at the bottom of the lake making a breakthrough? Before Wang Dashuai spoke, Bai Lu, who was busy, suddenly said, Little junior brother, have you seen the old turtle? Han Fei nodded slightly. Yesterday, when I was fishing with Big Yellow, it sent me a voice transmission. Bai Lu's expression gradually became serious. Did he want to make a deal with you? Han Fei nodded. Yes. Wang Dashuai also put down the big green door and sat down with Bai Lu at the table. The two of them looked at each other, which made Han Fei feel a little puzzled. Bai Lu said, Little junior brother, to tell you the truth, that old turtle is indeed trying to make a breakthrough. Now it is equivalent to half an explorer. According to the classification of sea demons, it is a peak-level sea spirit, half a step into the Tao-seeking state. Han Fei took a breath. A breakthrough is imminent? Bai Lu nodded. Yes, although this old turtle is not bad. Once it makes a breakthrough, there are only a few people on the Scattered Stars Island who can suppress it. Wang Dashuai added, Little junior brother, once it becomes an explorer, it needs to go through a heavenly tribulation and a huge amount of spiritual energy. Once this old turtle makes a breakthrough, it will inevitably cause the spiritual energy in the Scattered Stars city to be suddenly depleted. Do you think the sea demons will take this opportunity to attack us? Han Fei said in surprise, can't it just go to the outer sea to make a breakthrough? Besides, aren't there explorers on the Scattered Stars Island? Can't they kill it? Bai Lu shook her head slightly. Little junior brother, you underestimate the price of an explorer-level powerhouse. Once a powerhouse of that level takes action, half of the Scattered Stars Island can be destroyed. Moreover, the old tortoise was extraordinary. Its defense was extremely strong. If they really fought with it, the Scattered Stars Island would collapse. Even if the Scattered Stars Island doesn't collapse, what about the humans on the Scattered Stars Island? Han Fei swallowed. Was an explorer really that strong? However, thinking about it, it made sense. Back then, when Chen Huangdian moved the 800-kilometer Sea Demon Mountain, his power was beyond imagination. Han Fei was in a trance. But why doesn't the old turtle come out? Bai Lu sighed, how is it not wanting to come out? If it could come out, it would have done so long ago. It had actually been sealed under the Empyrean waterfall countless years ago. It could be said that the Empyrean waterfall was the old turtle, and the old turtle was the Empyrean waterfall. It's suppressed. Han Fei exclaimed, was it pressed down? Wang Dashui raised his head and looked at the high Empyrean waterfall. You didn't expect this, did you? Once the old turtle was free, the Empyrean waterfall would definitely collapse. If the waterfall collapsed, so be it. They could just move it away. But if it makes a breakthrough on the Scattered Stars Island, human beings will have to evacuate. Otherwise, the Scattered Stars Island will be in danger when the heavenly tribulation strikes and sea demons invade. Han Fei finally understood why the old turtle wanted to exchange demonic stones with him. It wanted to break the seal by force. Han Fei thought for a moment. Is there no other way? Bai Lu smiled. I'm trying. By logic, it will take the old turtle at least 20 years to make a breakthrough. The Scattered Stars Island arranged for us to live here in order to slowly nibble away the power of the seal around the Empyrean waterfall. Do you know why Little Nine has the law enforcer seal? By logic, a law enforcer shouldn't get such a strong and weird law, but Little Nine does. Han Fei asked in surprise, the Empyrean waterfall. Zhou Ling controls the power to seal the big turtle. Wang Dashui slightly shook his head. Not exactly, but definitely. As long as one person in the Empyrean waterfall becomes a law enforcer, the power of the seal will be weakened. In the end, the big turtle can even break the seal on its own. This is also what the humans have discussed with the big turtle. You can say that they have reached a peace agreement. Han Fei nodded deeply. Bai Lu suddenly said, little junior brother, did you exchange something with the old turtle? Han Fei couldn't help but feel a little guilty. What if I exchanged something a little? Would it cause the big turtle to make an early breakthrough? Bai Lu and Wang Dashui looked at each other in bewilderment and then looked at Han Fei in shock. Did you really exchange? Han Fei smiled awkwardly. Just a little. It shouldn't be much for the big turtle at the peak level of the sea spirit realm. Bai Lu immediately rolled her eyes and said, you're really from the Thug Academy. The first thing you did when you arrived at the Empyrean waterfall was to exchange something with the big turtle. Han Fei was stunned. Huh? So, I'm not the first person to exchange something with the big turtle? Wang Dashui smiled awkwardly, and Bai Lu said helplessly, your senior brother Chu Linyuan and senior sister Mu Qingchuan secretly exchanged a lot of things with the big turtle on the first day they came here. This directly led to the big turtle's breakthrough being brought forward by 10 years. Because of this and another thing, your senior brother and senior sister haven't dared to come back until now. Han Fei guessed that the other mission was to dig into the Hengduan mountain range. However, he still took a deep breath. So fast. This directly brought forward the big turtle's breakthrough. Han Fei looked at Wang Dashui, only to see this senior brother chuckle. I didn't have many things, so I only exchanged for 30,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid, and then I was discovered. Han Fei asked in surprise, senior brother, is that why you were locked in the Empyrean waterfall and forbidden from going to sea? Bai Lu snorted. How can it be so simple? Your senior brother exchanged with the big turtle when he had nothing on him, so he went to cheat the big turtle of an undersea chimney. That's the result now. Han Fei suddenly remembered that Jiang Qin had told him about this. He couldn't help but look at Wang Dashui and ask, senior brother, how much spirit awakening fluid is there in the undersea chimney? Wang Dashui smiled and scratched his head. I only grabbed more than 500,000 caddies. There's still a lot left. Han Fei was speechless. More than 500,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid? How many points would that cost? Senior brother is really a tough guy. But fortunately, he only exchanged 5,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid from the big turtle. That shouldn't be too much, right? Bai Lu couldn't help but ask curiously, junior brother, what did you exchange with the big turtle? Han Fei said slowly, I exchanged with demonic stones. Was I cheated? Bai Lu glanced at Han Fei in surprise. Junior brother, you didn't absorb it yourself, did you? Han Fei shook his head. I dare not absorb it either. I've always absorbed very pure spiritual energy. The spiritual energy and demonic chi in the demonic stones were too mixed and violent and not suitable for absorption at all. Of course, he wouldn't absorb it. Wang Dashui patted Han Fei on the shoulder and said, then exchange with it, provided that the amount cannot exceed 50,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid. Han Fei rolled his eyes. If I could exchange for 50,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid, I would have exchanged at least 30,000 caddies with it last night. Han Fei ate a bowl of white rice in Wang Dashui's house. Finally, Bai Lu gave him another bowl of rice. Han Fei left their house as if he were fleeing. In the afternoon, Han Fei simply sat in Yi Qingfeng's house and didn't leave. Although this old man never smiled much, Han Fei felt that he was not a bad person. Because Han Fei arrived early, the old poison specially made tea in advance. Then, holding a big centipede in his arms, he chatted with Han Fei. Yi Qingfeng asked, Han Fei, are you interested in learning poison? Since you have the heaven spirit detoxifying insect, it's suitable for you to practice poison. Han Fei glanced at the big centipede in his arms and couldn't help but feel a little scared. In the future, if he were to come into contact with these creatures every day, whether he opened or closed his eyes, all he would see was these things. Then he might as well die. Han Fei quickly waved his hand and said, forget it, forget it. Neither alchemy nor poison is suitable for me. I think I'd better cultivate normally. I want to refine my physique to the strongest. Yi Qingfeng glanced at Han Fei lightly. Oh. Then you can try fighting Qing Chen in the future. That kid is also a body cultivator. Although he freeloads everywhere, in fact, body cultivators always need a lot of food and enough energy. In terms of energy consumption, body refining school consumes even more energy than refiners and alchemists. They always need a lot of energy to consume. Han Fei couldn't help but think of Qing Chen's dirty appearance every day. Although he could feel it, Han Fei still felt that he had lost some weight. After a while, the tea was ready, and Yi Qingfeng said, the poison I used today is relatively light. But mixed together, it tastes good. Anyway, it won't kill you. You can drink 3 cups. Hearing that he could drink 3 cups, Han Fei quickly grabbed a cup of tea and poured it down. In his dantian, the heaven spirit detoxifying insect wolfed down the tea again. About 10 minutes later, the heaven spirit detoxifying insect flashed with golden light and upgraded. Han Fei couldn't help taking a breath. As expected of the old poison, he was proficient in all kinds of strange poisons. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, Senior, do you have any books on poisonous insects and poisonous herbs? Yi Qingfeng was slightly surprised. Have you thought it through? Han Fei shook his head. No. I'll see them in the future and recognize them. I can help you catch some too. In fact, how could Yi Qingfeng not know what Han Fei was thinking? Yi Qingfeng. Chapter 837. At night. Han Fei snuck to the pool of the Empyrean waterfall. Han Fei said telepathically, Senior Turtle, I'm afraid the demonic stones I have are only enough for 4,000 caddies of spiritual spring. In the future, I will prepare to go out to sea to make a breakthrough. At that time, I'll think of a way to get you something good. The big turtle said leisurely, good. Give it to me. Han Fei threw down a sea-swallowing seashell, which turned into spirit awakening fluid when he picked it up. During this period, Han Fei vaguely felt that someone's perception was lingering on him. However, Wang Dashui also said that as long as the transaction did not exceed 50,000 caddies, it was fine. It meant that the Scattered Stars Island didn't supervise the Empyrean waterfall very strictly. There was even a certain degree of encouragement in it. Of course, it was also possible that he was being lenient. After all, he had made so many contributions. However, Han Fei was rather suspicious. If he gave the big turtle too many things, wouldn't the strength of the big turtle be overloaded? Perhaps the big turtle's strength was already at the right level. However, it lacked the opportunity to break through. So, no one was worried that it would break through immediately. However, Han Fei just grabbed the sea-swallowing seashell and went back. He planned to inform Luo Xiaobai and the others tomorrow and then go to the Wind Sky Canyon. At home. By the pool. Han Fei swallowed 800 caddies of spirit awakening fluid in a row, and his upper limit of spiritual energy finally reached 29999. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. The consumption was less than he expected. There was still a little spirit awakening fluid left, and Han Fei didn't intend to give it to the nine-tailed mantis shrimp and the others. As far as the amount of spirit awakening fluid that he obtained now could be said to be completely unable to keep up with the consumption of the three legendary contractual creatures. If he wanted them to level up quickly, he would have to find another place similar to the ocean chimney and rob it. However, Han Fei felt that if he robbed the undersea chimney and didn't give it to the Scattered Stars Island, he would probably end up like Wang Dashui if he was exposed. However, this was all in the future. He had to find Luo Xiaobai tomorrow and learn more about the Wind Sky Canyon from her. The next morning, Han Fei walked out of the door and waved his hand. Clouds and mist shrouded the yard. He went to Yi Qingfeng's house and found a big spider to bite him. Then, Han Fei was about to fly away on the fishing boat. Suddenly, someone said telepathically, "Remember to choose a good time when you make a breakthrough." Standing on the roof, Ning Jingyao shouted, "Don't break through blindly. Try walking into the graveyard." Wu Ming's indifferent voice rang out, "Don't make do, and don't be casual." Yi said gently, "You can try many times, don't be anxious." Yu Shire said honestly, "Just catch the strongest one." Han Fei laughed. "Okay. Thank you all." Han Fei suddenly realized that the residents of the Empyrean waterfall were actually quite nice. Up until now, nothing had happened. Everything was so peaceful that Han Fei was surprised. Han Fei called Luo Xiaobai on the Sea God Square outside the central city, only to find that she was not there. On his way to the west side of the city, he found that Luo Xiaobai, Lu Renquang, and Zhang Xuanyu were coming toward him. The two sides actually met in the sky. Zhang Xuanyu instantly shouted, "Han Fei, this way, this way. We're going to the Empyrean waterfall." Lu Renquang shouted, "Do you know we're off today?" How could Han Fei know that they were off today? Luo Xiaobai didn't even have a day off now. Now that she had 6 stars, she didn't need to be assigned a job. Of course, Luo Xiaobai didn't choose to go to the sea alone, but chose to enter the central city to learn more information about the Scattered Stars Island, the 1,000-star city, and the 10,000 Demon Valley. In this regard, Luo Xiaobai had always been prudent. Her choices had always been logical and purposeful. Han Fei could guess her purpose. The more he knew, the more knowledge he had and the more secrets he knew, the faster and safer his cultivation would be. After a moment. In a club in the west side of the city. As soon as Han Fei came over, he was recognized by a group of people. Someone exclaimed, "Oh! Han Fei." Someone shouted to Han Fei, "Han Fei, I heard that you helped someone become a law enforcer when you were at the Empyrean waterfall. Is that true?" Someone shouted, "Han Fei, I want to challenge you." As soon as this person said that, Zhang Xuanyu turned around and shouted, "Go away. No time, we're busy." In the club. Han Fei looked at Luo Xiaobai. "What should I pay attention to when I go to the Wind Sky Canyon?" Zhang Xuanyu asked in surprise, "Are you going to become a hidden fisher so soon?" Han Fei glanced at Zhang Xuanyu. "Am I fast?" Han Fei said in disdain, "Zhang Xuanyu, haven't you reached the peak for a while?" "Kuang, you're too slow." Zhang Xuanyu chuckled. "My breakthrough will happen in a month. I'll be there when the time comes. I wonder when Kuang will reach the peak." Lu Renquang mumbled, "I'm almost there. I'm just grinding my foundation bit by bit." After a brief silence, Luo Xiaobai said, "There are indeed a few things that you need to pay attention to." The Wind Sky Grand Canyon was a huge abyss. There were experts guarding the outer perimeter, but the inside of the canyon was an abyss. However, the weather there is terrible, and the desolation gales are blowing all the time. The deeper you go down, the stronger the desolation gales you'll encounter. The wind sky wings, on the other hand, lived in the gales. If you feel that you're not strong enough, don't force yourself to go inside. Han Fei slightly frowned and asked, "Where's the graveyard?" Han Fei remembered that someone mentioned the graveyard in the Empyrean waterfall just now. Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei casually. The graveyard is also known as the Desolation Graveyard. Apart from the Desolation Gales, there's also the Desolation Water. It's a place where you can easily die. It's located at the bottom of the entrance of the Wind Sky Canyon. However, it'll be more and more dangerous if you go forward from the graveyard. There are countless hero souls of the Wind Sky Wings there. Han Fei asked in surprise, "Hero souls? The Wind Sky Wings are protected by something?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. Logically speaking, they should be protected by something. However, nobody has ever reached the deepest part of the Desolation Graveyard. Also, don't kill the Wind Sky Wings after you catch them. Otherwise, the other Wind Sky Wings will be very vengeful and may attract more powerful Wind Sky Wings. Han Fei was briefly stunned. Don't kill them. Then how do I take off the wings? Zhang Xuanyu said with a smile, "You don't know that, do you? The wings of the Wind Sky Wings are gone, but they can grow back. You just need to pick a wind pearl from its forehead and swallow it, and its wings will be yours. It's very simple." Han Fei couldn't help but wonder what kind of creature it was exactly. Why was it so weird? Han Fei nodded. "Anything else? If not, we'll have lunch at noon, and then I'll go there. I might go to the Sea of Pearls after I leave." Luo Xiaobai said, "You'd better come back first. You can't go out until your cultivation is stabilized. As a hidden fisher, it's important to make every step steadily in order to become a law enforcer." Lu Renquang said in a hurry, "I'm told that you can hunt as a team in the Wind Sky Canyon. Why don't we go there together?" Zhang Xuanyu nodded. "That's right. I'm told that we can also train there. If we go together, it's possible that we'll get good wings." However, Luo Xiaobai shook her head and said, "You'd better not. The Wind Sky Wings are timid and scared of crowds. Even if they cooperate, they will subconsciously avoid each other. Han Fei is strong enough, so you'd better go alone. Also, prepare some spiritual fruits to attract the powerful Wind Sky Wings." Then, Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. "Let's see if we can find a Wind God Pearl in the Desolation Graveyard." Wind God Pearl? Luo Xiaobai nodded. It said that the Desolation Graveyard is named because countless Wind Sky Wings tried to swallow the wind there and perished. Their heroic souls may give birth to Wind God Pearls, which are hard to come by. The last person to obtain a Wind God Pearl was more than 60 years ago, and he got a pair of fire wings. Han Fei nodded solemnly. "Okay, got it." Han Fei flew north according to the map that Luo Xiaobai gave him. There weren't many people on his way, but the wind was getting stronger and stronger after flying for 30,000 kilometers. Han Fei found that many boats were floating on the sea. Hundreds of kilometers away, there was an enormous chasm in the middle of the violent cyclone, as if a hole had been opened on the surface of the sea. The seawater on both sides was sloping down, and there was nothing in the middle. Fuck me, this is too unbelievable. The power of nature is truly marvelous. Han Fei found that the boat couldn't fly steadily anymore. When he landed on the surface of the sea and advanced 500 kilometers from the Wind Sky Canyon, several divine senses scanned him. Then, Han Fei heard someone speaking telepathically, "You have 6 stars. You can enter the Desolation Graveyard now." Then, someone said telepathically, "6 stars. You can enter now. You can try the Desolation Graveyard." Then, they must be below level 50 if they have a wingspan of 3 meters. They must be below level 50 if they have a wingspan of less than 5 meters. They must be below level 50 if they have a wingspan of less than 5 meters. The bigger their wingspan is, the higher their level will be. Above 5 meters, every meter longer means one level higher. If you encounter a wind sky wing above level 54, you must consider retreating. Han Fei saw that someone was approaching him from a distance. The man's waist tag was 8 stars. It seemed that he was responsible for teaching here. A moment later, a middle-aged man approached and observed Han Fei. You don't look weak. You can consider hunting level 52 or level 53 wind sky wings. Han Fei was slightly surprised. Are the wind sky wings not good enough? Level 53 is equivalent to a junior peak level hidden fisher, isn't it? The man smiled. The wind sky wings are a special fish that grows by swallowing wind power. They're similar to the birds in the transverse mountain. However, they don't have claws or beaks. They only have 2 ways of attack. One is to cut their wings with sharp blades, and the other is to raise a destructive gale. As an excellent heavenly talent, he wouldn't be a heavenly talent if he couldn't deal with that. Before Han Fei said anything, the man said, of course. You can also find someone to help you or cultivate inside. Anyway, I wish you good luck. Han Fei slightly nodded. Thank you for the information, Senior. First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 838. The wind was roaring, and an enormous wind wall seemed to have fallen from the sky into the deep ocean. It reminded Han Fei of the abyssal chasm in the level 3 fishery. That chasm also extended for tens of thousands of kilometers. At the very least, he couldn't have reached the end of it. He didn't even dare to enter the treasure trove that was right before his eyes. The wind wall of the Wind Sky Canyon was very similar to the wall of Sword Auras outside the abyssal chasm. The raging waves were rolling, and huge waves were stacked on top of each other, one wave after another. Under such circumstances, a normal ship would basically sink under a single wave. The wind and waves were so strong that it would not be an exaggeration to say that tsunamis were erupting all the time. The only difference from the abyssal chasm was that the wall of Sword Auras only appeared on the 2 sides of the chasm, while the wind wall of the Wind Sky Canyon filled the entire chasm and the periphery. The closer it was to the center, the crazier the storm would be. That was just the wind wall above the canyon. In fact, right where Han Fei was, he had been involved in a huge hurricane vortex. There were no clouds in the sky, or maybe the clouds in the sky had been rolled up by the hurricane and formed an enormous swirl. Stepping into the swirl, Han Fei felt that he would have been blown away if he hadn't stabilized himself with spiritual energy. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. Such a degree of wind power could even be called a level 20 tornado. When Han Fei got a little closer, he occasionally saw something flying in the sky. Yes, in the sky, a blue fish with 2 pairs of white wings. One pair of wings was big, and the other was small. The big wing was on the head and abdomen, replacing the fins, and the small wing was on the tail. They were 1/3 the size of the big wing. There was also a fan-shaped feather on the tail. Ha! Even birds dare not be so long. How can a fish be so long? The wind sky wing in Han Fei's eyes was soaring in the wind. However, no one went to catch it, because its wingspan was only about 4 meters, less than 5 meters. Obviously, no one wanted to catch it. The boats couldn't move anymore when they were within 100 kilometers. Here, the water was surging, and Han Fei could only walk on the waves. Looking up at the sky, one could often see blue and white figures flashing through the hurricane. They were so fast that the wind sky wings were flying with the help of the wind. They knew how to ride the wind. With the naked eye, they could only see a white shadow flashing across the sky. As Han Fei walked forward step by step, he still didn't see anyone. Except for the wind wall that was incompatible with the gale, there seemed to be no other creatures here. Even though he was at the bottom of the sea, he didn't sense any fishes or shrimps. There wasn't even a clam, let alone seaweed. At the bottom of the sea, there were large pieces of reef, and mud was rarely seen. Just when Han Fei was only 30 kilometers away from the huge canyon crack, a white shadow flew out of the crack in an instant, followed by a figure. Han Fei realized that someone had hooked the wind sky wing with a fishing pole and flown it to the clouds together. The figure of a man and a fish rapidly rose into the sky. Their speed was so fast that it was astounding. This was the effect of natural wind. He was not in a hurry to enter the canyon. He raised his head, only to find that the face of the man in the sky had been deformed. He was retracting his fishing pole and trying to approach the wind sky wing. To avoid being caught by the man, the wind sky wing simply flew to the edge of the center of the eye. Han Fei could see that a layer of frost quickly condensed on the human, and the frost covered his body at a visible speed. Therefore, Han Fei could tell that the temperature at the periphery of the eye was extremely low. There was no telling how many degrees below zero it was. However, Han Fei didn't think that the frost could stop a hidden fissure. He felt that it was only a matter of time before the wind sky wing was caught. However, when Han Fei thought that the man was about to succeed, the battle suit on his body suddenly began to fall apart. Then, blood seemed to be spurting out. Huh? It's been torn apart. How is it possible? Han Fei was rather shocked. How could the ultra-quality battle suit be torn apart by the power of wind or frost? Desolation gale? Han Fei's eyes slightly constricted. Yes, the pure wind couldn't be so terrifying, but the desolation gale could. The wind sky wing was a wind-eating fish. It could swallow the desolation gale, but human beings couldn't. The hidden fisher quickly let go of his fishing pole. He was swept away by the wind and quickly left the area of the desolation gale. He didn't stabilize himself until he flew dozens of kilometers away and slowly landed. A moment later, when Han Fei saw the man at the entrance of the canyon again, he was pale and covered in countless bloody wounds. He smiled at Han Fei. Sorry about that. Han Fei slightly nodded. You chose a wind sky wing with a wingspan of 7 meters. You can consider a 6-meter one. The man slightly shook his head. No, both hidden fishers and law enforcers need wings, and the stronger the wind sky wing, the better. Han Fei smiled. Good luck. After that, the two of them stopped talking and walked into the canyon together. The moment Han Fei stepped into the wind sky canyon, he discovered that a strange gust of wind was blowing in the canyon. The cold and gloomy wind fell on his body like a wind knife. Although he only sensed the lethality, Han Fei felt that it was as powerful as when he just became a hanging fisher. The man jumped down without hesitation, as if he didn't care about the feeble desolation gale at all. Han Fei was quite curious too. He jumped down and easily broke the feeble desolation gales with the vibration of spiritual energy. After he fell 1,000 meters, Han Fei found that the desolation gale was almost powerful enough to tear apart a junior hanging fisher again. After he fell 3,000 meters, Han Fei felt that the desolation gale could even tear apart an intermediate hanging fisher easily. After he fell 4,000 meters, Han Fei found that the desolation gale could already tear apart an advanced hanging fisher. He was already at the bottom of the ocean, where many people were sitting cross-legged. There was no water here, only wind. Their clothes were fluttering in the wind. Most of them were wearing battle suits, because the desolation gale could easily tear regular clothes into pieces. Looking at the people sitting cross-legged every few hundred meters in the enormous canyon, Han Fei couldn't help but shake his head with a smile. It seemed that this place wasn't the desolation graveyard. There are at least 500 people here. Some are still peak-level hanging fishers, and some have already become hanging fishers. Hardly had the man landed when someone laughed. Old Jia, you didn't catch him again. This is your third time. Someone said, Old Jia, you have to succeed in 3 days. Why don't you choose a level 51 wind sky wing? A wingspan of 6 meters is enough. That's right. Old Jia, you've spent a day and a half. The guy named Old Jia simply stuffed a spiritual fruit into his mouth and chuckled. I've grasped the rhythm. I'll definitely succeed one more time. As he spoke, he simply sat cross-legged and began to recover without listening to anybody else. It was not until this moment that someone noticed Han Fei's arrival. Perhaps because Han Fei had been away from the island for too long, nobody remembered him at this moment. Also, according to Luo Xiaobai and the others, Sun Mu and the others had already become hidden fishers. They must have caught the wind sky wings and obtained the wings, right? Someone glanced at Han Fei. Bro, are you here to adapt to the desolation gale in advance too? Someone was slightly surprised. Huh? You look familiar. I think I've seen you somewhere before. Someone teased him. You look familiar to everybody. Someone teased him. Bro, what level of wind sky wings are you going to catch? Someone asked. Bro, if you want to make a breakthrough, you'll have to wait for a few days. Breakthroughs have been arranged in the next 5 days. Don't overlap with other people's breakthroughs. You'll be competing for spiritual energy and your level will be unstable. Listening to their chatter, Han Fei thought to himself, these people are all half a step away from becoming hidden fishers. Therefore, the desolation gale that could only tear apart advanced hanging fishers couldn't threaten them at all. That was why some of them were chatting with each other telepathically. Han Fei's lips curled. Excuse me, how do I get to the desolation graveyard? Suddenly, all the telepathic messages were gone. Many people stared at Han Fei in shock. Those who were cultivating looked at Han Fei in surprise, and those who teased him just now were dumbfounded. Someone who had just failed to catch a wind sky wing suddenly opened his eyes and eyed Han Fei up and down. You're going to the desolation graveyard? Han Fei slightly nodded. I'll have a try. Hiss. Many people gasped, as if they were amazed by Han Fei's courage. Someone asked in surprise, Bro, which department are you a heavenly talent from? Someone said solemnly, nobody dares to go to the desolation graveyard for months. It's already the 5th one this month. Han Fei asked in surprise, the 5th? Are many people going to the desolation graveyard? Someone said in self-mockery, that's right. A fully armed fatty, the genius refiners Guan Qinyan and Mu Jia, a sexy woman from the law enforcement team. And you? Han Fei was slightly intrigued. Guan Qinyan and Mu Jia were here too. However, it did make sense on second thought. Those two guys were refiners. Since they were fully armed, they must have been well prepared. Old Jia said, it's said that the desolation graveyard is behind the middle of the Grand Canyon. You'll have to walk at least 3,000 kilometers to see the desolation graveyard. Someone said, Bro, don't blame us for not reminding you. The further you go, the stronger the desolation gale will be and the more desolation water there will be. Powerful wind sky wings might even attack you. Han Fei slightly nodded. Thank you for the reminder. After that person said that, Han Fei had already walked forward. A moment later, Han Fei passed everybody and stepped into the desolation gale that was even more furious. Second. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 839. Under everybody's gaze, Han Fei walked to the depths of the Wind Sky Canyon without hesitation. The desolation gale was far from a threat to Han Fei at this moment. As a matter of fact, after he became a hidden fisher, he had to capture the wind sky wings and the wind pearl as soon as possible. Before he came, Luo Xiaobai had said repeatedly, the sooner you take it, the better the effect will be. Han Fei moved faster and faster. It wasn't until he disappeared from everybody's sight that someone heaved a long sigh. 5 heavenly talents have come this month, and all of them want to go to the desolation graveyard. All of them want to go to desolation graveyard. I wonder how the other 4 are doing. Someone smiled bitterly. Anyway, it has nothing to do with us. Not everybody can go to the desolation graveyard. Those who are weak like us can only stay here. Those who are stronger will be on their way to the desolation graveyard. However, those who can reach the desolation graveyard are definitely the heavenly talents of the heavenly talents. Someone slightly shook his head. I only hope that he doesn't die. After only 100 kilometers, Han Fei found that the desolation gale here was strong enough to hurt peak-level hanging fissures. After another dozens of kilometers, Han Fei sensed that someone was sitting cross-legged and seemed to be training with the desolation gale of this level. When Han Fei approached, the person glanced at Han Fei but didn't speak telepathically. After walking for about 300 kilometers, Han Fei found more than 50 people cultivating here. Someone's eyes flashed when they saw Han Fei. "Are you Han Fei?" Someone was immediately surprised when he said, "Han Fei. How is it possible? Didn't Han Fei die in the outer sea?" The person who spoke said in surprise, "He refined weapons for me." "I can't be wrong." Someone asked tentatively, "Han Fei?" Han Fei slightly nodded. "Don't worry about me. Just keep training." Then, someone frowned. "Han Fei, where are you from? The outer sea or the scattered stars island?" Han Fei knew what he was trying to say. He casually pointed at his waist tag. 6 stars. "I just got it." Someone was shocked. Right, Han Fei's waist tag couldn't have been more than 5 stars when he left. Now, he had a 6-star waist tag on his waist. Obviously, he was from the scattered stars island. After Han Fei passed by, someone sighed. "He's a tough guy." After staying in the outer sea for so long, everyone thought that he was dead. Who knew that he would actually come back alive? Someone looked at Han Fei's disappearing back. Is he going to the desolation graveyard too? Quite a number of people died there. Someone sneered. This is a character who dares to go to sea alone as an intermediate hanging fisher. Who would believe that he didn't go to the desolation graveyard? Someone shook his head and said, "Ha, I hope he doesn't die inside." Kacha. Braving the terrifying Nirvana astral wind, he traveled for more than 1,000 miles. Along the way, he encountered dozens of people. But at this moment, Han Fei stopped. The power of the desolation gale had reached the point where even peak-level hanging fissures were in danger. Han Fei's ultra-quality battle suit was already full of cracks. At this moment, the battle suit was shattered, and the desolation gale that was as sharp as a knife was blowing on Han Fei's body, making clanging sounds. However, that wasn't a reason for him to stop. The reason why Han Fei stopped was that he sensed a trace of water mist mixed in the desolation gale. The water mist was corrosive. Because of that, the ultra-quality battle suit on him was completely shattered. Desolation water. Swoosh. A golden battle suit fell on Han Fei's body. Putting on the semi-divine weapon, Han Fei stepped forward again. At this moment, fewer and fewer people were running into him. After another 300 kilometers, Han Fei found someone who was cultivating cross-legged. After walking for more than 1,500 kilometers, one powerful wind sky wing after another appeared in Han Fei's sight. However, they were hovering 300 meters above Han Fei's head. Some of the wind sky wings even peeked at Han Fei curiously. At this moment, a wind sky wing with a wingspan of more than 6 meters passed by 50 meters above Han Fei's head. Han Fei wasn't bothered at all. He simply ignored them and kept moving forward. 2,000 kilometers later. The desolation water was no longer in the form of mist, but tiny pillars of water. Swish! One of the desolation water fell outside of Han Fei's golden battle suit. Han Fei's body slightly trembled from the shockwave. Hula! Suddenly, Han Fei sensed something above his head, and a desolation gale fell from above. Han Fei moved sideways and raised his head, only to find that a wind sky wing with a wingspan of more than 8 meters was trying to attack him. Huh? You don't want me to move forward? Han Fei casually launched a golden fist mark at the wind sky wing. However, the latter's speed was extremely fast, even though the golden fist mark had suddenly appeared a few meters away from it. However, the tiny distance gave the wind sky wing a chance to escape. However, Han Fei's lips curled. It was because the moment the fist was punched out, the void lines had already flown out and hooked one of its wings. Once one of the void lines was hooked, the rest wouldn't be able to escape. Unless the Wind Sky Wing's soul was shattered the moment it was hooked, the Wind Sky Wing's soul would be shattered. If it was too late, it would be too late. Han Fei sneered. You think you can come within 50 meters of me? The 9 void lines had already hooked the Wind Sky Wing. The latter had noticed it the moment it was hooked. As if struggling from its soul, the Wind Sky Wing knew that it couldn't get away, so it dashed straight at Han Fei. Information popped up in Han Fei's eyes. Name a Wind Sky Wing. Introduction: an exotic creature born in the wild wind. It feeds on all kinds of wind and breeds wind pearls. The Wind Sky Wing is timid, curious, and likes to fly. It likes to bully creatures weaker than itself. When its 4 wings are opened, it can raise wind blades and spew out desolation gale. Human beings can obtain Wind Sky Wing feathers by swallowing the wind pearl. Level of 53. Quality: exotic is spiritual energy greater than 6,806 points. Effect: if it's eaten for a long time, it can significantly improve one's physique. Collectible: a wind pearl. Note: the wind pearl must be taken within 100 seconds, or it will return to the world as a desolation gale. Han Fei snorted. It's an exotic creature. No wonder it dares to approach me. However, brother, bye-bye. Han Fei stomped on the ground and activated the coiled turtle array. At the same time, Han Fei opened his right hand and controlled the void lines to launch a streak of golden light, which shattered half of the sharp wind blades. When the remaining wind blades cut through the coiled turtle array and hit Han Fei, they didn't have much power left. A moment later, the Wind Sky Wing crouched before Han Fei. With a smile, Han Fei jumped onto the Wind Sky Wing. He already had a second vision. Vaguely, Han Fei saw that there seemed to be a hint of bright green, mysterious air currents in the desolation gale. Han Fei vaguely felt that the Wind Sky Wing he controlled had the desire to swallow it. Huh? Is this why the Wind Sky Wing swallows wind? Fish, mount. Han Fei began to fly at a low altitude on the Wind Sky Wing. Han Fei was slightly tempted to have such a mount. He could control creatures with the void lines, and there were so many Wind Sky Wings here. Could he use the demon purification pot to swallow a few Wind Sky Wings of a higher level? However, Han Fei gave up the idea as soon as it popped up. It was simply because it was too repetitive. Now that he had little gold, he could fly extremely fast. Compared to the Wind Sky Wing, little gold was much more powerful. Why would he want a contractual spiritual beast with a Wind Sky Wing? Han Fei didn't even think he needed wings. However, since other creatures had wings, he should have one too. After all, he couldn't use little gold all the time. However, although he didn't need a contractual spiritual beast with a Wind Sky Wing, it didn't mean that he didn't need a Wind Sky Wing in the creatures he synthesized. However, he needed a Wind Sky Wing that was stronger than exotic creatures. Having made up his mind, Han Fei rode the Wind Sky Wing forward. Hula! Hula! The desolation gale was getting stronger and stronger. When he reached 3,000 kilometers, Han Fei found that he was extremely cold inside the golden battle suit. With a thought, the golden battle suit returned to his body. In an instant, his body was covered in a layer of frost. The biting coldness seeped into his flesh from his skin. The wind was like a knife, and the water was eroding. Han Fei's sturdy body, under the dual stimulations, felt that his blood was boiling and fighting back. Han Fei realized that he could practice the 108 Desolate God body in this place. Han Fei's body began to turn green. There was no telling whether it was because of the cold or because of the wind and water, but there were some shallow white marks on his body that were caused by the wind blades. Han Fei took a deep breath. Even with his body, he could feel it 3,000 kilometers away. What would happen to ordinary people? Guan Qingyan and Mu Jia should be able to reach this place, but they must have come in battle suits, probably semi-divine ones. As for the other 2 heavenly talents, it was hard to say. Even if their bodies could withstand the Nirvana astral wind and Nirvana water, they would only be able to advance another 500 kilometers at most, and that would already be incredible. Hiya! All of a sudden, Han Fei found that the wind sky wing he was controlling slowed down. There seemed to be fear deep inside its soul. Hula! Han Fei instantly recalled the void lines and jumped away from the wind sky wing. Han Fei didn't care about the wind sky wing at all. It was too weak for Han Fei to care about. In the next moment, 2 visible wind blades fell. Puchi! The wind sky wing that he controlled was beheaded. Shoot! Why is it so fierce? Didn't they say that the wind sky wings are timid? Han Fei raised his head, only to find that a wind sky wing with a wingspan of 10 meters was opening its mouth at him. Hee hee. Han Fei moved his feet and rushed out against the desolation gales. At the same time, he extended his senses, and the void lines danced in the desolation gales, trying to catch the wind sky wing. Logically speaking, it should be very difficult for any living creature to sense the void lines in such a wild and devastating environment. However, the wind sky wing suddenly dodged, as if it had sensed the danger. Huh? Is it because the wind sky wing is too familiar with this environment? However, the void lines chased after the wind sky wing like maggots in a bone. The void lines weren't real fishing lines in the first place, and they could ignore the rampant desolation gales. However, the wind sky wing seemed to be frightened and fled crazily. After only one moment, it escaped from Han Fei's range of perception. Han Fei was lost for words. What a fast reaction. If you were any slower, I would have used you as my ride. Withdrawing the void lines, Han Fei curled his lips. It seems that I'm still not good enough with the divine manipulation technique. The 3rd chapter. Asking for votes. 10,000 words. I've been making up stories in my dreams recently. I dreamed of a ferocious cat girl last night. Okay, I'll live stream tonight. Let's chat. Also, asking for monthly votes tomorrow. Asking for monthly votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 840. A wind sky wing fled in panic. As a result, none of the wind sky wings dared to fly above Han Fei's head for a long time. Just as I expected, they're all cowards. Han Fei couldn't help but curse. Now that he didn't have a vehicle, he was running forward. Because he didn't have a battle suit, Han Fei was completely naked while he ran. Han Fei couldn't help but have mixed feelings. Thankfully, nobody saw him, or he would have been greatly embarrassed. In the harsh desolation gales and the stinging desolation water, Han Fei had goosebumps all over his body. After running for 800 kilometers, Han Fei had occasional bloodstains on his body, although no blood was oozing out yet. It was enough to suggest that the danger here was unbearable for regular peak-level hanging fishers. All of a sudden, Han Fei sensed that a red battle suit had appeared. A woman. Han Fei immediately put on the golden battle suit. The moment he put on the battle suit, he felt that he had crawled into a warm quilt on a cold winter day. Han Fei wasn't detected until he was about 15 kilometers away from the woman. Han Fei, on the other hand, was smiling. She was a familiar face. He didn't expect to meet her here. TSK, TSK. Mo Fian looked determined and was walking forward step by step. She knew that it wasn't easy to reach the desolation graveyard. She already felt that she couldn't hold on any longer after only 4,000 kilometers. It had nothing to do with the quality of the battle suit. A semi-divine weapon was so powerful that it might be able to hold on for another 1,000 kilometers. However, it was no longer a question of whether or not it was a semi-divine weapon, but whether or not her body was strong enough to walk over. She heaved a long sigh, envious of the body practitioners. If the body practitioners put on the semi-divine battle suit, they could definitely walk 5,000 kilometers. They would have a chance to get a pair of soul wings when they reached that place. All of a sudden, she sensed that somebody was approaching. Mo Fian's expression changed greatly after she saw it. She didn't expect that it would be Han Fei. Didn't Han Fei run to the outer sea? Why didn't he die out there? Mo Fian couldn't have looked more awful when she thought of the grudge between them and Han Fei. She said telepathically, Han Fei, let's talk. Han Fei chuckled. Yo. At this time, you finally have something to say. What did you do before? Mo Fian was speechless when she saw that Han Fei could still run wildly in such an environment. However, when he thought of Han Fei's inhuman physique, he felt relieved. This was why she hated body cultivators. Although her own physique was not weak, it could even be compared to Yang Diyu's. But that was only relative. Facing Han Fei, she knew that she couldn't beat him. Han Fei smiled weirdly. I always thought that you had become hidden fishers long ago. I didn't expect that you still haven't advanced. Could it be that they were waiting for me? Mo Fian gritted her teeth, released the fish hook in her hand, and possessed her spiritual beast. A red long sword in her hand surged with spiritual energy. Mo Fian asked, Han Fei, if you attack me, how are you going to explain yourself when you get out? Han Fei sneered. I've already moved to the Empyrean waterfall and become an unscrupulous young man. What do I have to fear? Mo Fian froze for a moment. She didn't know that Han Fei was so unscrupulous. Was the Empyrean waterfall the backyard of the Thug Academy? Han Fei's senior brothers and senior sisters all lived in the Empyrean waterfall. Now, he had moved there too. Although there were private fights between humans, there were only the two of them here. As long as Han Fei didn't kill her, and as long as Han Fei simply wounded her so that she couldn't get the good wings, Han Fei would be the winner. Mo Fian thought of all this in an instant and said, Han Fei, as long as you and I are safe this time, I won't attack you again. The hatred between you and Sun Mu has nothing to do with me. The sea token has nothing to do with me either. Han Fei wasn't in a hurry to attack. He grinned. I'd be a fool if I believed you. You want to be safe, don't you? Hand over your sea-swallowing seashells, rings, bracelets, necklaces, and earrings. Otherwise, you can catch the wind's sky wings with a wingspan of 5 meters. Mo Fian's expression changed greatly. She secretly cursed Han Fei for being shameless, knowing that Han Fei was cheating her of her reserves. This guy was going to cut off his future path. Chilla. Without a word, Han Fei had already slashed at her with the draw technique. At this moment, Han Fei's draw technique was almost the same as the attack of a hidden fisher. Mo Fian sensed it the moment Han Fei attacked. 2 water dragons charged out, and she slashed her long sword at the same time. She discovered, to her shock, that Han Fei could still launch such a powerful attack in such a harsh environment. In comparison, her strength was suppressed by the Desolation Gale and the Desolation Water, and she couldn't perform her strongest attack at all. Bam! The water dragons exploded, and the sword light split the water. Mo Fian only managed to block Han Fei's attack with her protective jade. She looked at Han Fei in shock. You have the combat ability of a hidden fisher. Han Fei sneered. Are you going to hand it over or not? I'm told that it's easy to die in the Desolation Graveyard. You're so strong that I believe you can definitely reach the Desolation Graveyard, right? Mo Fian's heart trembled. Han Fei wanted to kill her. Mo Fian turned her hand and took out an ancient jade. Han Fei's eyes slightly constricted when he saw the ancient jade. Was it an ancient jade similar to the fist mark of the Chow family? Han Fei slightly frowned. How many such ancient jades do you have? As he spoke, Han Fei took out an ancient jade too, which was exactly the one that Chao Qiu gave him earlier. Han Fei chuckled. Come on. I have a lot of trump cards. But I hope that you can figure out your current situation. You're no match for me right now. While Mo Fian was thinking, she suddenly sensed the palpitation of her soul. Swoosh! Mo Fian turned into water and fled in horror. She didn't see Han Fei doing anything just now. Why did she have such a strong sense of crisis? Han Fei was slightly surprised too. It seemed that the void lines were not omnipotent. At least for someone as strong as Mo Fian, she was very sensitive to crises and could predict and escape in advance. To prevent Mo Fian from escaping with her full strength or by burning herself, Han Fei temporarily withdrew the void lines. Han Fei sneered. I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. Give me the thing, and I won't attack you. If you don't. I don't mind wasting some time and playing with you. After all, there's no time limit here. Mo Fian's eyes were cold. Han Fei, you're stronger than me in such an environment. But are you confident that you can catch me? Han Fei chuckled. You can have a try. If you can escape as fast as Yi Baiyu, forget what I said. If you can't, you'll have to consider whether or not you can die. Gotcha. Mo Fian was not intimidated by Han Fei. She instantly crushed the ancient jade, and the azure dragon roared and charged at Han Fei. Han Fei secretly cursed. These people were really not easy to deal with. If it were someone else, they might have surrendered. Should I attack? Han Fei was lost for words. After thinking for a moment, the ancient jade in his hand cracked. However, this punch was not aimed at the dragon's shadow, but at Mo Fian. Mo Fian was shocked. She didn't expect that at all. Was Han Fei really not afraid of death? Han Fei, are you crazy? Han Fei pointed his finger and performed the spirit sealing technique on Mo Fian, who was running away. At the same time, a mist was formed. In an instant, a sword light slashed at the azure dragon. Overlord's technique. The power of Snowmorn was increased by 8 times with the Overlord's technique, and Little Fatty was attached to him, as well as the coiled turtle array and the 6 spirits armor. Instantly, Han Fei made a choice. He chose to take the attack by himself, and Mo Fian wouldn't be able to escape unless she took out another ancient jade. Otherwise, how could she avoid the punch mark of the Chow family? Boom! Snowmorn's attack wasn't that strong after all. However, it did weaken half of the Azure Dragon's attack. To prevent Little Fatty from being heavily wounded, Han Fei added a sacrificing punch. This time, when the attack hit him, Han Fei had been blown away, and his golden battle suit was cracked. Pooh! Han Fei vomited a mouthful of blood. However, he didn't panic. He quickly stuffed a spiritual fruit into his mouth, and the void lines were extended again. There was no telling if she sensed the real crisis, but Mo Fian, who was running away, crushed 2 more ancient jades. Han Fei's eyes almost popped out. One was aimed at the Chow family's punch mark, and the other at Han Fei. Mo Fian, on the other hand, had already rushed away and disappeared. Son of a bitch, he's really rich. Having no time to chase after her, the Overlord appeared and slashed at the Azure Dragon with Snowmorn. Little Gold appeared and smashed the Azure Dragon's phantom with the lightning blade. Thankfully, the Overlord had the time to launch a second attack. Han Fei was blown hundreds of meters away again. He vomited 2 mouthfuls of blood before he staggered to his feet. Bah! Let's see if your ancient jades are still as strong after I become a hidden fisher. Recalling the void lines, the Overlord, and Little Gold, Han Fei hurriedly cast the divine healing technique on himself, sat cross-legged, and began to heal his wounds. As for Mo Fian, he couldn't catch up to her anymore. However, it wasn't bad that he had used the peak strike of 3 hidden fissures at once. However, Han Fei hoped that the woman didn't have as many ancient jades as Chao Qiu did. Otherwise, he would have suffered losses. After all, he only had 1 punch mark of the Chow family, which had been used up. After a round of furious attacks, Han Fei couldn't see any wind sky wings anymore. They must have been scared away by the terrifying attack just now. It wasn't until half an hour later that Han Fei finally got back on his feet and moved on. First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 841. Hundreds of kilometers away, Mo Fian was still running, but she couldn't have looked more awful. She had to use 3 attacks just to deal with Han Fei. She couldn't have felt better. After all, trump cards weren't cabbages. She had prepared them for the desolation graveyard, but half of them had been used up. Also, she was surprised that Han Fei hadn't chased after her yet. In this case, it would be even more difficult for her to go to the desolation graveyard. Thinking about that, Mo Fian chose to give up. She thought that even if Han Fei went to the desolation graveyard, he might not be able to get the soul wings. Even if Han Fei got the soul wings, he would only be faster, but he wouldn't be unbearable for her. What really shocked Mo Fian was that the peak-level attack of a hidden fissure failed to wound Han Fei. This guy dared to take it head-on. It suggested that Han Fei was very strong. Mo Fian couldn't help but look at the sky. Han Fei, you win. Han Fei didn't care about Mo Fian's fury at all. From the perspective of human beings, he didn't have to attack Mo Fian and the others. But if he met them in private, he would have killed them. After all, those people had done him a lot of harm. If it were Sun Mu just now, Han Fei would have killed him without hesitation, instead of robbing him like he did to Mo Fian. The relationship between Han Fei and Sun Mu was irreconcilable. Looking at the golden battle suit, Han Fei found a few cracks on it. He had to take the power of a hidden fissure seriously. The seal's attack was already so powerful. If he were to face them in real battle, he would probably have to run away. Putting away the golden battle suit, Han Fei pressed on for another 800 kilometers, only to discover that his skin was cracking, and blood was oozing out of the bloody marks on his skin. Han Fei's face slightly changed, and he took the opportunity to practice the 108 Desolate God Body. Swallowing 5 energy spiritual fruits in a row, Han Fei began to practice. Under the blast of the desolation gale and the desolation water, Han Fei felt that his strength had grown slightly, but it couldn't be significantly improved. No, I don't have enough energy to practice in such a situation. Besides, I've already reached the peak of the hanging fissure realm. It's hard for me to improve my desolate god body or the indestructible body. Han Fei cast the divine healing technique on himself and his eyes flickered. He was considering whether to make a breakthrough. After the breakthrough, he only had about 3 days to absorb the wind bead. Moreover, the sooner he absorbed it, the better. But he hadn't even seen the desolation graveyard yet. Wait until I really can't walk anymore. Han Fei secretly heaved a sigh of relief and continued to move forward, ignoring the wounds on his body. Once the number of wounds exceeded 100, he would cast the divine healing technique on himself. After nearly 200 kilometers, 3 people appeared in Han Fei's perception. The 3 of them looked very similar. They were all wearing armor that was armed to the teeth. Even the holes for their eyes and mouths were not left. They were like 3 iron lumps. Among them, one was thin, one was short, and one was fat. The 3 of them sat on the ground and seemed to be cultivating. Chao Qiu. Han Fei recognized Chao Qiu's armor because the guy had written, "Young Master of the Chao family," on his armor in a flamboyant way. Han Fei was lost for words. He immediately realized why Chao Qiu carved words on his armor. It was to tell others that he was a member of the Chao family, and whoever dared to touch him would be killed. Han Fei was amused. The other 2 must be Guan Qingyan and Mu Jia. Han Fei thought for a moment and decided to meet them since they were all his acquaintances. So, after putting on the golden battle suit, Han Fei walked over. When he was 20 kilometers away from them, Chao Qiu suddenly looked back, and so did Guan Qingyan. Han Fei was lost for words. It wasn't surprising that Guan Qingyan had discovered him. But how did Chao Qiu discover him too? How did this kid's spiritual power grow so fast? When he was in the level 3 fishery, his spiritual power was only 800 meters. Logically speaking, this brat's strength should be very weak. Han Fei's golden battle suit didn't cover his face. Because the semi-divine battle suit couldn't cover his whole body, it didn't mean much to him whether he had a helmet or not. Han Fei. Brother Han. Mu Jia looked back in confusion and asked in confusion, "Who? Isn't Han Fei dead?" A moment later, Mu Jia jumped to her feet in surprise. Han Fei. You're still alive. Guan Qingyan looked at Han Fei's waist. Huh? Han Fei, have you been back to the Scattered Stars Island? Chao Qiu had already run close. Han Fei, I heard that the Sea Demon Mountain is gone. Is it because of you? How's the outside of the Scattered Stars Island? Is it exciting? I thought you were dead. Han Fei said with a smile, I'm not dead. However, it's a long story, and I can't tell you now. What are you guys doing sitting here? Why aren't you moving forward? Guan Qingyan was the first to calm down. He looked at Han Fei and said, Brother Han, the Desolation Graveyard is 100 kilometers ahead, but there are countless heroes' souls there. We found that it's hard to break through. Han Fei chuckled. Then make breakthroughs. Make breakthroughs first, and then try again. Mu Jia said angrily, just go ahead and see for yourself. It's not about breakthroughs. Those heroes' souls are too strong for us to defeat. Han Fei tilted his head and glanced at her. Have you fought them? Mu Jia paused for a moment. Not yet, but I certainly can't defeat them. Han Fei was lost for words. Do you think I'll believe you? One coward, two cowards, and Guan Qingyan who didn't know how to fight at all. It would be a miracle if you could defeat them. Han Fei waved his hand and said, let's see how strong they are. A moment later, when Han Fei's senses reached the Desolation Graveyard, he discovered, to his surprise, that it was full of bones. The illusions of the wind sky wings were floating one after another. Even though they were only hero souls, their wingspan was at least 10 meters high. It meant that every wind sky wing was at least level 55 when it died. No wonder Mu Jia claimed that they couldn't defeat them. Han Fei's first thought was that he couldn't defeat them either. It wouldn't be a big deal if there were only one or two of them. However, Han Fei discovered more than 10 hero souls of such a level after a casual scan with his senses. It was needless to say that there were still places that he hadn't seen yet. Pondering for a moment, Han Fei asked, May I ask, can these heroes' souls be turned into wind pearls? Chao Qiu replied, they can't. It's said that those hero souls will devour each other and eventually form particularly powerful wind sky wings. As long as you kill the powerful wind sky wings, you'll be able to get the wind god pearl. After you swallow it, you'll probably get very powerful wings. Guan Qingyan added, however, it's also possible to get mutated wind pearls and obtain soul wings that are faster and more effective than regular wings. After a brief silence, Han Fei said, then I think you'd better not look for them. Can you kill them after you find them? Chao Qiu mumbled, I'm not looking for them. We're planning to hunt the living wind sky wings. Han Fei chuckled. With the 3 of you here and the 4 of us here, which wind sky wing will come to us? Mu Jia took out a pearl and said, yes, use this. Use this, they will come. Han Fei glanced at the pearl in Mu Jia's hand, only to discover that it was a sealed pill. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, since you can lure the wind sky wings here, why don't you break through and grab the wind pearl? Mu Jia and Chao Qiu turned their heads away, and Guan Qingyan said calmly, because we can't beat them. Han Fei didn't know what to say about those guys who had no combat ability at all. However, suddenly, an idea flashed across Han Fei's mind, and he said, well, what do you think? Actually, I think I can beat them. However, I'll pay a high price. I can't help you for free, can I? Chao Qiu raised his hand. I'll trade with you. I'll trade with you with the 3rd strengthened version of the poison god. Han Fei said casually, 1,000 kilograms. Pooh. Chao Qiu staggered and fell to the ground. I don't have that much. I only weigh 100 kilograms in total. Considering the effect of the poison god, Han Fei chuckled. Fine, 100 kilograms it is. You have to give me 3 fist marks of the Chao family. 1. I don't have many left. Han Fei narrowed his eyes and said, Ball. Do you know who I met on my way here? Chao Qiu was confused. Who? Han Fei snorted. Mo Fian. Chao Chiu asked in surprise, she's here too. Han Fei said casually, I even had a fight with her. She gave me 3 of your ancient jades the moment she came. So, I'll be in danger after I go out. You don't even want to give me 3 fist marks of the Chao family. That's unacceptable. Chao Chiu hesitated for a moment and said casually, then I can only give you 100 kilograms of the 3rd strengthened version of the poison god. Han Fei grinned. Deal. Putting the poison god and the fist marks of the Chao family into Forge the Universe, Han Fei looked at Mu Jia and Guan Qingyan unhurriedly and said earnestly, you see, my requirements are actually not high. You, Mu Jia, raised her hand. I'll give you a set of semi-divine armor. Han Fei pointed at the golden battle suit on his body and said, if you give me a divine suit, I'll take it. As for the semi-divine suit, I can refine it. Guan Qingyan sighed. Sure enough, you can already refine semi-divine weapons. It seems that you didn't waste your time in the outer sea. Brother Han, what do you want? If it's that kind of attack, I have some here too. I can give you 5. Han Fei's heart did a flip. Damn, they are all big shots. Was this thing really that worthless? Han Fei's eyes flickered. Actually, I don't need so many. After I become a hidden fisher, this kind of attack can only be regarded as a very ordinary trump card. Now, I can accept credit points, level 2 soul crystals, spirit awakening fluid, and spiritual spring. Old Guan, it's not that I don't want to help you, but if I catch one for each of you, I'm afraid it will cost me a lot. Guan Qingyan was silent for a while. I don't have level 2 soul crystals and spirit awakening fluid. I still have 2 million credit points and 20,000 caddies of spiritual spring. Han Fei patted Guan Qingyan's shoulder and said, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Just give me 2 more pieces of that ancient jade. I don't want more. Guan Qingyan nodded and gave the jade to Han Fei. 200 credit points were immediately transferred to his account. At this time, Han Fei was overjoyed. When he deduced the void fishing art, he had to improve his strength, upgrade his spiritual heritage, and then refine semi-divine weapons. At that time, he only had 80 million points of spiritual energy left. Now, together with what Guan Qingyan gave him, he had exactly 100 million. 2 million credit points could be exchanged for a lot of things. Han Fei sighed leisurely. Alas, it's not easy to make money these days. I have to work part-time as a fighter. And I have to take on such a dangerous task. After that, Han Fei looked at Mu Jia again, and Mu Jia was so scared that she took a step back. Second update. Please vote, end of this chapter. Chapter 842. In fact, Chao Chiu, Guan Qingyan, and Mu Jia all knew that Han Fei was taking the opportunity to extort money from them. What did this guy say? That was exactly what he was. In fact, a lot of people knew that, however, they were only willing to do it because Han Fei was quite a legend. Although Han Fei was sometimes greedy, it was widely acknowledged that he was crazy, strong, and capable. At the very least, Han Fei broke into the Dark Hunter Legion and went to sea for Xia Shaochan, which suggested that he valued his friends. It was also why they weren't afraid that Han Fei would steal their money. Besides, in fact, they had brought a lot of things like the strike of a peak-level hidden fisher when they came. It wouldn't hurt them to give Han Fei a few of them. However, the things that Chao Chiu and the others didn't care about could often be put to unimaginable use in Han Fei's hands. So, Han Fei felt that he would definitely make a profit. Mu Jia hesitated for a moment. I'll give you 50,000 kilograms of spiritual spring, 1,000,000 points of credit, and an ancient jade. Han Fei thought for a moment and grinned. Okay, deal. Han Fei had made a huge profit this time. Not counting the spiritual fruits, he had a storage of 150 million points of spiritual energy, which was enough for him to use for a long time. However, since he had taken someone's money, he had to help them get rid of their troubles. Of course, Han Fei still kept his word. Han Fei said, Mu Jia, are you sure that your pill can attract the wind sky wings? I can help you take them down, but I can't attract them. I need your help. Mu Jia nodded quickly. Yes. If you don't believe me, I'll show you. Chao Chiu hurried to stop her. Hey. Wait a minute. Take a step back. Otherwise, the hero's souls will be attracted too. A moment later, 100 kilometers away from the desolation graveyard, Mu Jia took out the pill and said, Be careful. The wind sky wings here have a wingspan of at least 12 meters. They're very fierce. Last time, the three of us had to join hands to repel it. Han Fei nodded. Don't worry. Don't attack them. After all, you all have amulets and semi-divine armor. Leave the battle to me. Chao Chiu and Mu Jia nodded, and only Guan Qingyan said, Brother Han, be careful. Han Fei nodded. Wait a moment. Let me set up an array. What Han Fei was going to set up was a maze. The wind sky wings were too fast and good at escaping. It would be very difficult to capture them with the void lines alone. After all, their ability to sense danger was quite strong. If he used the formation, it would be completely different. As long as it was trapped in the array, as long as it was slightly trapped, he could pretend to let the nine-tailed mantis shrimp catch it with the void chains to paralyze it, but in fact, he would catch it with the void lines. If it didn't work, he could try to seal a spirit in the wind sky wing as long as he was fast enough. As long as it was sealed for half a second, it would be finished. Guan Qingyan was also very interested in arrays. Seeing that Han Fei was about to set up a formation, he came over curiously. However, when he saw Han Fei drawing lines with spiritual energy on the fish skin, he asked in surprise, Brother Han, did you consume a lot of spiritual energy? Han Fei smiled faintly. It doesn't matter. Guan Qingyan asked, Brother Han, what kind of array technique is this? It seems quite special. Naturally, Han Fei didn't intend to teach them, nor could he teach them here. He said casually, It's a maze I saw on a certain array book. Okay, just get ready. A moment later, the array was drawn. Han Fei cast the divine healing technique on himself to heal his wounds, before he shouted at Mu Jia, open it. Hearing that, Mu Jia immediately opened the seal on the pill. In an instant, a strange fragrance wafted out, carried by the wind to an unknown distance, hula. After only 20 seconds, Han Fei saw 3 wind sky wings rushing close from the sky. Shoot, 3 of them. Han Fei saw that one was level 56 and the other 2 were level 57. Han Fei roared, Take care of yourself. Overlord's technique. The 3 wind sky wings rushed close. 100 meters. 50 meters. Hula. 30 meters. Open. 3 wind blades swept at him, and the coiled turtle array below Han Fei's feet rose. At the same time, the infinity water blocked 100 meters in the sky, and the maze was raised. Within 500 meters of the array, a strange light flashed, illuminating the place. Under the attack of the desolation gale and the desolation water, the cloud-based techniques were useless. They might be blown away in the blink of an eye. Therefore, only light could confuse the eyes and disturb those creatures. At that moment, hundreds of black chains covered the sky, and the 3 wind sky wings fled in panic, as if they realized that they had been tricked. Han Fei breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, creatures like the wind sky wings were very bold. He wouldn't have dared to do that if it were any other level 57 creature. Because, if he was not careful, he would be struck to death by the other party. Dazzled by the strange light, the wind sky wings didn't know where to go at all. They simply waved the wind blades and blew the desolation gale. However, those people were wearing semi-divine weapons, and the attacks weren't fatal. In the chaos, Han Fei finally hooked the soul of one of the wind sky wings. Immediately afterward, all 9 void lines hooked onto it. As Han Fei waved his finger, a gap appeared in the maze, and the other two wind sky wings quickly flew out. The one that was controlled by Han Fei fell to the ground heavily. Its soul was struggling. However, it was the soul that was hooked by the void lines in the first place. How could he let it get away? What Han Fei didn't know was that the power of the void lines was related to the soul strength of the creature that was being hooked. He didn't have such a feeling when he was fishing for the red blood butterfly fish, because the red blood butterfly fish's soul was much weaker than his. However, the wind sky wing's soul power wasn't necessarily weaker than Han Fei's. The void lines, on the other hand, were actually one of Han Fei's soul. When they were pulled, Han Fei felt a stinging pain in his soul. That was why he let the other two wind sky wings go. Otherwise, given Han Fei's personality, he wouldn't have let them go. A moment later, Han Fei sat on the wind sky wing palely. When the array was gone, Chao Qiu, Mu Jia, and Guan Qingyan looked at Han Fei, dumbfounded. Chao Qiu danced in joy. It worked. It worked. It's a level 57 wind sky wing with a 12-meter wingspan. Han Fei struggled to catch his breath. Okay, which one of you wants to make a breakthrough? I've learned a soul technique that can control it for a while, but it's very exhausting for me. However, I've used up a lot of energy, so you have to hurry. Me. Me. Chao Qiu and Mu Jia shouted at the same time. Chao Qiu nodded. I'll go first. Mu Jia shook her head. No, I'll go first. Han Fei said angrily, cut the crap. You make breakthroughs together. After the breakthroughs, the second capture operation will begin. Chao Qiu and Mu Jia sat on the ground at the same time and began to make breakthroughs. They were different from regular peak-level hanging fishers. They were all authentic second-generation rich kids, and they had a lot of good stuff on them. There was a spiritual spring in their sea swallowing seashells, so they didn't have to worry about the lack of spiritual energy. Guan Qingyan, however, looked at Han Fei in shock. A soul technique that could control creatures. What was the difference between that and possession? After all, if you controlled the other party's soul, it was equivalent to possession. Of course, he also knew that Han Fei could only control one wind sky wing. Or rather, Han Fei's soul should be slightly stronger than that of this wind sky wing. As for the other three, he couldn't control them. Therefore, Guan Qingyan had a more intuitive understanding of the power of Han Fei's soul. Guan Qingyan didn't know what Han Fei had experienced in the outer sea during this time. However, his array skills had improved by leaps and bounds. He could even refine semi-divine weapons. Now, he had even learned soul technique attacks. This caused him to have mixed feelings in his heart. Han Fei glanced at Guan Qingyan and said, "What are you thinking about? You can prepare for your breakthrough now. I'm going to set up a defense array. Otherwise, if there are too many wind sky wings, it will be hard for me to resist them." 2 hours passed. Mu Jia was one step ahead of Chao Qiu and became a hidden fisher. Han Fei observed for a while. Different from Zhou Yinling's breakthrough to become a law enforcer, the breakthrough to become a hidden fisher was similar to a regular breakthrough. Mu Jia's realm wasn't stable yet. She hurried to take the green wind pearl off the wind sky wing's head. The wind sky wing under Han Fei's feet had completely disappeared, and it had completely turned into a big fish. Han Fei remembered that Luo Xiaobai said that she wouldn't kill it. Immediately, he recalled the void lines. The wind sky wing jumped on the ground in panic, and then it was swept into the sky by a strong wind. It waved its tail and rushed into the terrifying wind walls on the two sides of the wind sky canyon in panic. Mu Jia held the pearl and observed it for a while. Seeing that a wild wind seemed to be flashing inside the wind pearl, she exclaimed, "What a beautiful pearl." Han Fei said angrily, "What are you talking about? We're all waiting for you. Just eat it." Being yelled at by Han Fei, Mu Jia immediately put the wind pearl into her mouth and swallowed it. At that moment, Mu Jia closed her eyes. At that moment, an illusionary white light gradually appeared behind Mu Jia. After a full 100 breaths, a pair of pure white wings unfurled from Mu Jia's back with a whoosh. Something's wrong. Han Fei immediately realized that something was wrong. Mu Jia was wearing a semi-divine armor. If her wings could be opened, where were they rooted? Seeing Han Fei's surprise, Guan Qingyan said casually, "The wings are half real, so they can pass through the armor." Han Fei slightly nodded. However, he wasn't satisfied with the wings. Since he was capable of catching a level 57 wind sky wing, what about stronger ones? Ah! All of a sudden, Mu Jia flapped her wings and spun in the sky, before she was blown away by the wind. Han Fei cast his hook helplessly and pulled her back, before he said angrily, "Can't you fly after you get out of here? Now that you're in the middle of a desolation storm, you can't fly at all." "Humph. I'll just fly. I've never flown before." Ha ha ha. Third. Asking for votes, end of this chapter.